Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the reunion of Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. This is your host, Kai, and joining me once again today is my co-host, Vyzz. How are you doing, Vyzz?
Hello, I'm Grant. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm, excited to be back. We had to reschedule recording a few times because, life just got in the way, for me anyway. Lots going on around here. And but we're good and we're back. And I'm super excited to chat with you today about this super interesting topic that was recommended by one of our YouTube subscribers. So, a little bit more about that in the future. So, what have you been up to?
Not too much actually. Just visited my grandma today and prepared the document because I have a lot to say about this topic we're going to talk about. And yeah, just the usual shenanigans, playing games, work, work on videos and stuff like that. Just not really stuff that's too out of the ordinary. But I'm really glad we finally got it worked out and are able to record today.
Absolutely. Same here. I've just been busy with work and, I already told you, I got a new puppy and some stuff was going on at home. So it's like a lot of, life responsibilities right now. But yeah. All right, guys. So the best way to support us here is to subscribe, share the podcast, and also hop on over to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We do post all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to us there. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to your podcasts. So for the news section for today's episode, we'll be talking about the recent comments made by Yoshi P in regards to Final Fantasy XVI. Super exciting. Our main discussion topic for this episode is all about combat for party members that have yet to appear in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And so we'll be touching on how synergy and character switching might be implemented, which OG limit breaks will stay, and which ones we think might become abilities. Also, I just want to take a second to shout out to one of our listeners, like I said before, Tom, who is a YouTube subscriber and listens to us. He reached out to me on Twitter DM with his suggestion for this episode's topic. So we'll be quoting some of his ideas for combat mechanics and party switching and all of that stuff throughout the episode. So thank you so much, Tom. All right, so for the news, Final Fantasy XVI is close. So Yoshi P made some comments during a NieR Reincarnation live stream is what I'm reading. This is from Siliconera. Final Fantasy XVI producer Yoshi P revealed that a new Final Fantasy XVI trailer will appear soon. So this information was shared, like I said, during a NieR Reincarnation and Final Fantasy XIV crossover event. So he stated that a new video is done and will appear soon. However, it was delayed due to certain factors. He did not elaborate as to why the debut of the trailer ended up being pushed back. He did go into a little bit more detail regarding the development of the game. He said that the development team has spent a fair amount of time polishing and debugging the game and that it's pretty much complete. So, Vyzz, what do you think about these comments?
Very interesting, and I hope I'm not being a hopeless optimist, but if he says that the trailer is done, I'm pretty sure it will be shown within the month, maybe at start of June, the latest. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
And then, since he also claimed last year that when they show something, the game will drop soon after, I think that August is probably the latest latest timing I can see for the game to be dropped. Again, maybe I'm too optimistic on this, but I really hope this is the case because it does seem like they're in the final stretch to just polishing up some or putting on finishing touches and maybe remove some bugs, preparing maybe a day one patch if there is any. I hope not. And there really are some. I think it was Yoshi P who said that he and his team are great perfectionists So I'm pretty sure they want to take their time, but if the trailer is ready and ready to be shown soon, as I said, they don't want to make us wait too long afterwards to
Exactly.
get our hands on the game and finally play it. I'm so excited.
Same here. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear this. I think that it's on track for what we've been predicting, actually, because I think that we
Yes.
did say this in a previous episode as well, that we'll probably see a trailer in June or July, and then we would get the game probably about a month after the trailer drops. So it's kind of in line with what we predicted. And he didn't state why the trailer was delayed. Obviously, you had stated that, with COVID, he said at the end of, I think it was last year, that there was 6 months delay. So
Yeah,
it could be that, but I think it could also have something to do with other things as well that they just can't share with us.
possibly, yeah.
We did kind of speculate that it was supposed to be shown, I think, at the Game Awards, but then it got pushed back or something happened. Anyway, we don't know what, but I'm just super excited that we're getting a trailer soon. And, we'll get this game and be able to play it. And it would be, I think it's going to be an amazing game, and I think that it's going to be a great distraction for us to kind of, sink our teeth into, and that just gets us closer to Remake Part 2. So, like,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
happy for this game, but I'm also happy to be playing a Final Fantasy game and be distracted. So I'm still thinking about Part 2, but it's going to bring us that much closer to, getting some kind of news or a teaser or something in regards to Part 2. So
Yeah, and if we're lucky, then by the end of the year we'll have some part 2 news. At least that's what they plan on doing. If it happens, we'll see. But yeah, let's just hope. And the one thing I'm the most giddy about knowing is, how's the combat actually going to work? Is there a party? Not really. Only guest characters? How does things work in terms of gameplay and battle and traversal and stuff? That's what I'm most excited about. Because story, I know I love it. I
yeah.
don't think they can do much wrong. I didn't play 14 at all. I also barely seen anything, but what I hear, that the stories in all the expansions are really, really good. And great, memorable characters and interesting story and world building. And since it's mostly the same team at work, I'm pretty sure they have that one in the bag. So gameplay is the one I'm most excited about learning, and I hope I like it.
Yeah, same here. I think that I'm going to be super interested in the story, absolutely. But we haven't really seen any gameplay. Like, we saw a very short clip of gameplay, I think the last time that we saw this, which was during the trailer. I forget actually when we saw
Awakening
this.
trailer, I think it was called, yeah.
Yeah. It was like an extended trailer. But I think it's insane that we haven't seen any combat. We pretty much know nothing about this game. But
Yeah,
yet
that's true.
it's so close to being released. So I feel like we're going to get a lot. Once we get that trailer, then we'll probably get, like, there's going to be a lot of, glimpses, hopefully, of gameplay and, things showing off the systems and how, if there is other party members or switching or something, because we basically know nothing. So
yeah. We've only seen Clive in combat. There were, I think, 2 short segments where you see an ally, or probably an ally in the background, which is focused on the enemy and not on Clive. So I'm pretty sure there are some allies in battle, but whether they are uncontrollable AI partners or actual party members remains to be seen. But on the other hand, I just thought about final trailers of previous games. Do I really want to watch the trailer and maybe get spoiled by major story points that I want to experience on my own? Because the final trailer of Remake Part 1 was extremely spoilery. And I'm glad I didn't watch it. And Intermission's trailer was on the very edge of too spoilery and just right, because it showed Nero, which was the final battle of this little DLC, and it's debatable, but it's definitely not as bad as the Part 1 final trailer. So I really hope they don't give away
Mhm.
too much for story and character development for Final Fantasy 16 and focus more on gameplay. Maybe if the first few hours of story, maybe glimpses into later parts, but you don't actually get to know much or see much about the story. More about the maybe glimpses of characters, of
Mhm.
environments. I just don't. I just want to get to experience the story with basically going in blind
Yeah.
and only get like a teaser of what's to come, but not really knowing what's about. And this first trailer we got was almost perfect. We saw a few things, a few
Mhm.
conflicts brewing. There are some factions. There was the website that's been released soon afterwards, which talked about some of the realms and kingdoms.
Yeah.
And I personally don't really want to know much more. I don't want
Mhm.
to know much more about the world and characters that I already know. But gameplay, sign me up. I want to know
Yeah.
a lot. Not everything, of course, but I just need to know how it actually plays like, how the UI looks, maybe a glimpse on menus and how you run around, what interactions you can perform, stuff like that.
Yeah, I would like that as well. And this is a different team than Remake, right? And I feel
Yes.
like it's Yoshi P's team. He's practiced a lot of restraint up until this point where he hasn't really showed us too much. And I feel like the final trailer will probably coincide with that. I just don't see it being as spoilery as Remake. I'm not sure who's in charge of creating the trailers or who decides, what kind of content goes into the trailer. It might not even be Yoshi P, unless he has to watch it to give his final, like, okay, yes, this
Oh,
is
for
the one
sure,
that,
yeah.
we're gonna see or whatever. But I feel like it's not gonna be too spoilery. You might just feel like it's just right, which is,
Mm.
I agree. What we've seen so far, it's been just right. We've got a little glimpse of the gameplay, the lore, the characters, and the world. And I agree with you. I'm good. I just want to experience the story. And also, I would rather just see more gameplay. So we'll
Yes.
have to see. Not too much longer, hopefully, till we get the trailer. But I'm super excited.
Yes.
All right, guys, so moving on here to our major discussion topic for this episode, we are going to be focusing on combat for characters that are yet to appear in Final Fantasy VII Remake in Part 2 and beyond. So we're going to start off here with our boy Nanaki, Red 13. So Viz, did you want to start us off here?
Gladly. So technically, we've already seen Red, but it wasn't controllable. So he will be a completely new party member in part 2 and onwards. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why we can also talk about him like this. Just like we will talk about Vincent and Catchy and Sid.
Yeah.
So Nanaki or Nanaki, I still don't really know which one's the correct pronunciation. So let's just say Red 13. um, I think this was. I think many other people are also of the opinion that he should have fast movement because I've heard people talk about that in the past and in our own server on the Cosmo Canyon Observatory. And even in part 1, when you look at him go in the background, he seems pretty nimble. So he should be fast, running around and doing his things.
Mm-hmm.
So for dodge roll, wasn't quite sure. It could just be rolling on the floor like sideways or something. I'm
Oh, I
not
see.
quite sure how dog cats roll or dodge. That's why I think maybe some sort of side step or forward or back step, depending on in which direction you tilt your left analog stick. But this one was probably the hardest one to gauge because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not too familiar with dog cat anatomy to see to make sure or to think of what makes most sense. But maybe sideway rolling, which would look frankly kind of silly, but maybe it works. That's why I wrote down sidestep like Aerith. It's
Yeah.
probably the most sensible. And attack combo. Probably a bit of everything, like biting, clawing, the salto attack in between. Maybe a little bit of tail swipe, but I can see the tail swipe being the AoE attack when you hold down square.
Yeah.
It's I think he has a lot of potential for miscellaneous combos and very versatile combat.
Yes, absolutely.
And for blocking, I'm pretty sure he just like crouches down or ducks down, as you can see in certain cutscenes where he's growling at Sephiroth or the enemy. I think that makes the most sense, because why would he like cover his eyes or something with one forepaw? It wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And he also has this collar. Maybe he just moves the head away a little bit to show his collar, to make the enemy hit the collar instead of him or something. I don't know. Maybe hard to say. But the most interesting thing, I think, would be the triangle attack. And since he is kind of a dog, and we already encountered dogs, they will charge and bind you on the ground and chomp at you. Like the guard dogs and wrath hounds. I think he could do that. Maybe like Aerith, you hold down triangle, charge up for maybe max 1 second or 1.5 seconds, and that's the time that he will be pinning the enemy down. So if you just tap it will just throw the enemy down and release immediately. But if you hold down the button and release, then he will hold them down a little bit longer. And maybe while he's holding the enemy down, or just sticks to the enemy because the enemy is too large, you can mash triangle to bite and chomp onto the enemy and deal additional damage. And depending on the enemy, maybe the enemy gets pressured or just falls prone to the ground and has to stand up first and stuff like that. I could see this working and being pretty fun. Maybe that one also needs a cooldown after initiating, because otherwise it could just charge and charge and charge. Wouldn't be too much fun, I guess. So, like Barret, if you use the overcharge attack, maybe it takes like 45 seconds or so to recharge, so you can throat chomp again. Yeah, we'll see. Would be a cool callback to him charging Hojo in the original.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add? Something I forgot, or another idea?
Yeah, I was just thinking that since we already saw him in Remake, I think that his movement is going to be similar to that. So I don't know what you're thinking. Do you think it's going to be completely like revamped, or do you think it'll be like how fast he is in battle? I feel like they're just going to keep it the same and probably add things on, or just make a small few like changes here and there. I just don't see him like, moving extremely different than what we've already seen. Even though we couldn't control him, obviously we'll have control of him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will take this as the basis, because why recode and create all the movement, the animations from scratch if you already have done so in the past? So I've seen a mod that will give Red the control, but I think in the vanilla game you can't really do much with him. Just run around, maybe attack. Some commands don't quite work because he wasn't meant to be controlled. So I think they can take that as a basis, especially movement, and then just add all the abilities and stuff on top of it. So I'm pretty sure he was already halfway done and maybe already planned out to a certain degree, so that they don't have to spend too much time on him and focus more on maybe rebalancing Yuffie a little bit, if that's even necessary, maybe a little bit, because she is really, really let's say overpowered if she and 2 other party members would be in battle, because she's really made to be a one man, or in her case, one woman army with just a partner that helps out a little bit. So maybe she'll get nerfed a little bit. But those two are basically basically ready, I'd say, with some minor adjustments. With Red, they probably need one or two limit breaks, maybe 1 or 2 more abilities, stuff like that. Other than that, it's most is done, and they can wholly focus on Catchy and maybe a little bit of Vincent. It really depends on where part 2 will end. Maybe Sid as well. But if we go with my current prediction, Vincent could at most be an optional party member like Red 13 in part 1, and Sid is for another part. But who knows? It's really hard to predict. But I'm pretty sure that they need the resources for Catchy, because that one's a really piece of work in terms of how will they make him work in battle and with a basically nonsense character design, which works in a turn-based system, but in this more action-based, we'll see. We'll get to him. But yeah, that's Red 13 for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that he's going to be more fast movement like we've seen already in Remake, like you said, more similar to Tifa. You know, my question was, what is his weapon going to be now? Because wasn't he didn't have hairpins? Wasn't his materia inside of his collar now? So they made that change, right?
Yeah, because hairpins are too small for materia, so that you see materia, they opted for a collar, and him being an experiment and having a collar probably makes the most sense instead of hairpins.
Yeah, so
yeah,
for me, I agree. I think it's going to be more scratching, clawing, like biting, kicking, jumping and twirling.
Yeah.
Attacks. I agree. I just put the same, like a tail swipe or maybe a tail spin for the hold square AoE attack.
Yeah.
Like a spin. Or maybe even a whip, like a tail.
Maybe, yeah.
Like a whip. Or maybe he turns and holds his tail and burns them or something.
It would be nice, yeah.
That would be cool. It like does a little bit of fire damage. I said blocking, maybe, putting his head down, like you said, ducking. I just don't see him holding his paw up like over his face. Like that doesn't really make sense. But just taking a stance, like more of like a stern, like sturdy stance, and then like putting his head down. Triangle, I said wind up, like you said, probably would charge an enemy, bind it like a Wrathhound, like a throat clamp. Like you had already said, but I don't know how much we've seen him use his mouth for attacking. I think we've seen a lot more like scratching and like clawing, like batting with his paw than biting. So I don't know if it'll be he disables them, jumps on them, and then just like slashes them like that instead of biting. But
yeah, who knows? In the original, his spins in the air and then strikes the enemy, or maybe strikes him with the hairpins. Maybe that's why it's the weapon. I've seen him do this attack, especially in aerial combat. All right, that's something I quite forgot to think about. Aerial combat. How is he going to do aerial combat besides just spinning in the air? I think this is probably the only thing he could do. Maybe it makes sense. Jump up and spin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and also, so the interesting thing for me is, like you said, the use of hairpins, right? Like as a weapon. So what is his weapon going to be now? You know what I mean? Is the collar isn't really a weapon. So is it going to be like a, I don't know. What, you know what I mean? When you're in the menu and you're equipping the weapon, is it still going to be a hairpin, but the hairpin isn't doing the damage? It's maybe giving his attacks a damage bonus. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the collar doesn't really seem to be a suitable weapon per se, but I can see the collar maybe in enhancing his combat abilities in some way. I don't know. It's just it's a game. Don't question it.
Yeah, but like if it's a hairpin, it could be even like he has these what are they called? Like things hanging from him, like a talisman or like a like he has these.
Yeah, part of his he has bound part of his mane together, and then it's just hanging down. It's not quite a talisman. It's more like braids that
Yeah.
hold parts of his mane together. That looks like not quite pigtails, but something along those lines.
Yeah, so maybe that is the weapon, but the weapon just gives his actual attack a percentage bonus or something like that. It's not the weapon that we're seeing actually attack.
Mm.
But anyway.
Yeah, or maybe it's just Mako infusion in through the collar, and that one
Mm.
makes his claws stronger. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, so moving on here, we are going to be talking about Vincent. So Tom left some comments here about Vincent. So he was wondering about Vincent's shooting mechanics and if they'll be similar to Barrett's. His idea was obviously he has a gun, but it's not, a Gatling gun like Barrett. So his thoughts were that Vincent would shoot like less frequently, but would be higher damage and possibly, shooting closer to the enemy because Vincent is more like he's able to kind of get close and far away really quickly. So he has like massive movement speed and being able to do higher damage than Barrett basically was his thought process.
Mhm.
He said probably do more damage than Barrett, at the same pace as Cloud's sword swings. So a little bit like that kind of attack speed, but with his gun.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
And then he had an idea with dodging. So he would kind of disappear and it would just be his cape moving, kind of like he referenced a Harry Potter movie. McGonagall like banishes Snape, and then it's kind of like I watched the clip on YouTube where the cape just kind of like bounces around and then goes out the window. And we did see something similar to this. I think it was in Advent Children as well, because there was a scene in there where he just turns into his cape and his cape is kind of moving around.
And saves Cloud, yeah.
Yeah, he saves Cloud. Yeah. So like I think you stated this as well. So I'm thinking something similar to that as well for dodging. And then he also said possibly he flashes to the back of the targeted enemy. So then the enemy becomes pressure because he's shooting a lot closer because he's able to kind of get around and be more evasive. So the person, like the enemy that he's attacking isn't, it's kind of like he's attacking out of surprise, right? So that's probably pressuring or making the enemy become incapacitated for a few seconds. So the rest of the party has the advantage to increase the pressure bar of the enemy, basically. So Vincent is kind of like a battle initiator. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting in there, pressuring them or incapacitating them or stunning them, and then gets out and does damage as well from further away. So anyway, so yeah, that was a lot. So what do you think about Vincent?
Yeah, I like a lot of thought processes that Tom made, and in this comment, it's quite interesting. So I took this as inspiration for fleshing out my own thoughts. So for attack, I'd say attack and triangle for me now goes hand in hand with Vincent because he, as we've seen in Dirge of Cerberus, he's also a good CQC, close quarter combat fighter. So I can see triangle switching modes like with Cloud between short range and long range. So short range is not using his gun at all. Maybe as a combo finisher. Maybe it just punches and kicks and then shoots from close range. But when you're in long range mode, he has his gun out only, and then you can only perform basically gun combos.
Okay.
And from farther away, of course.
So are you thinking about like how Cloud has two different stances, so it would be similar, so you can switch between?
Yes, exactly. Basically, a mixture between Cloud and Yuffie, because Yuffie also switches between close range, where she just swings around the shuriken and then can throw a shuriken into the enemy and then perform long range magical attacks. like with ninja energy, ki energy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think something in between mode switching and then close quarters combat and long range. That's what I could see happening. And then if you hold down square, of course, if it's close, it's probably a roundhouse kick or something. And if it's farther away, it's a charged shot that does more damage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yuffie had this, I think one limit break she had in the original was turned into the hold down square attack when she's farther away, I think. Yeah, I think it was her long range mode. Where it's basically, how's it called? I don't remember the attack's name, but she punches the ground and then a string of explosions race towards the enemies. But I forget how it's called. Something like that, but instead of using the ground, he just shoots with maybe a second delay because he charges up and then does maybe 150% damage or something like that. And for dodging, I like the idea of taking Brumal form from Yuffie as the basis, but I can see him like creating more distance between the starting and ending point, more than the other characters do with rolling and dodging. And that way he can zip behind enemies, and the visuals could be, as we talked before, same in as we've seen in Advent Children, where he saves Cloud, where basically just he disappears into his cape, it swirls around, and then he appears again, maybe 3 meters or something.
Yes.
Into the direction you dodged into. And then it's easy to just zip behind an enemy and then attack from behind. Maybe he gets bonus or no. There's also the deadly dodge materia, if that's still a thing in future parts, that is, because right after your dodge, you attack, you get a special attack. With Vincent, he could actually perform a powerful close range shot.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Or something like that, yeah. Just dodge and then a special shot against the enemy or something. Or maybe still a short triple shot, like because Cloud had this roundhouse,
so cool.
The roundhouse slash, and yeah, there are endless possibilities.
Yeah, I like that idea of kind of a combination of Brumal form where he evades, but then maybe a quick succession attack, like you said, but maybe he disappears and comes back and shoots really close, but from 3 different angles.
Ah, right. Yeah, kind of a phantom image trick and shoot from 3 copies and then they disappear again.
Yeah, like that. That would be so cool.
Although that's more of a ninja technique, so maybe Yuffie gains something like that in the future.
That's true.
An ability where she creates a phantom image of herself where she stood, and that one stays there for a while. I think Brumal form already does that a little bit, but it's so fast it disappears quite quickly. So
I was thinking more in line with something like how Noctis disappears and comes back and attacks in 15, like on...
Right, yeah. With the warp strike.
The warp strike, but he'll attack and then disappear and come back, and the shape of him is kind of left there in particles, particle effects, kind of like that, but except he would actually show up and shoot them, like it would be him. Maybe some kind of a cloud that forms that he kind of dissipates into or something. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe, or just some weird chaos particles left behind or something.
Ooh, yeah, that would be cool.
Some purple particles that everybody thinks he's Sephiroth or Genova or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for blocking, I think this is pretty straightforward. Just like Tifa, hand up, but with the cape in hand, so that he basically moves the cape in front of him to block attacks. And I thought of a few new abilities with him that could learn. Like bullet time. Activate and then maybe 3-4 seconds bullet time, which is then easier to... then it's he moves just as fast as usual, but everything else is slowed down for a few seconds, so you can basically shoot more or do more damage within the same time frame. And maybe a sniper shot that's also that holds time, kind of like when you're entering the battle menu. And then you have a few seconds to target specific parts of an enemy, like a certain reticle shows up, which you can then move around. And the weak point for each enemy is different. And maybe some weapon upgrades could increase the time you have for targeting, maybe damage, or even make weak points visible. So that you know, a human heart, of course, or the head are weak points, but for some weird monsters, it's maybe hard to tell. So maybe then it shows, this is the weak point, which does double damage, or 50% more damage, or something like that. But on the other hand, the sniper shot could also be his triangle ability, maybe. That's once you press it, you have a few seconds to perform that.
Okay.
And then weapon abilities improve or can or weapon not abilities, weapon skills may improve the efficacy of this attack. Like Cloud's Punisher mode deals more damage, or I think there were others that improved triangle abilities. But something like that. I could also see that. I think I already mentioned this in one of my earlier videos where I analyzed the combat from the first gameplay trailer and 2 screenshots. There I also thought about how all the other characters could play, and I already had an idea for Vincent sniper shooting enemies and targeting specific areas. I think it would be pretty cool if done well and not too disruptive to the flow of the usual pretty fast-paced battle. So we'll see.
Yeah, I really like that idea of slowing down time, and I think Tom also came up with that idea. It would be
exactly.
cool if there was an ability where, it slows down time and then gives you more time to shoot maybe more accurately. I do like what you said, your idea of having where it shows the weak points. And we're not talking about like in the menu how if you're fighting, let's say, some kind of like a robot and it has different arms and legs, because you can already choose like which part of, the guard scorpion that you want to attack.
Yeah, the front leg plates, for example, in the later stages.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be that. Maybe it zooms in like a bullseye, but on different parts of it. And then is that what you mean? And then
this could also work, yeah.
I was thinking more towards like Red Dead Redemption, how you have that ability where you slow down time and then it's like it's quick succession shots, but like as time goes on, the red circle kind of zooms in and then you go like, when it goes back, it's like or whatever, and you shoot in all those places. Kind of similar to that.
Maybe that, or I also remember, I haven't really played it myself, but I watched a friend play a little bit of Fallout 3 and 4, or was it just 4? Where you can also slow time and then target specific enemy parts. And each enemy part has a higher or lower hit rate, and I also think damage, because some parts are weaker, some are not. I see something like that just you move the reticle yourself and target a certain area, and then you shoot. And if it's a weak point area, then it does maybe double damage, but maybe some areas are more protected, like a Sahagin's shell, where it does basically no damage at all or almost none. Or maybe it's there's a possibility that they include the removal of body parts much more, not just during bosses, but for normal enemies as well. I think the Behemoth had that. Guard Scorpion had those 2 leg plates you could destroy. The Crab Warden had a few weapons you could destroy, stuff like that, but also for normal enemies.
Yeah.
To weaken them. For example, Sahagins or Sahagin Prince or whatever Sahagins that may appear in the future, you could, by targeting their shell, maybe they can shatter or something, and then they'll be vulnerable or immediately staggered, something like that. I can also see this happening. But maybe the others could do that as well. Maybe attacking him from behind with enough hits or stronger attacks. Maybe the shell breaks too, but Vincent's sniper shot is more effective at that. Something like that. There are so many directions they could go into and so many more little quirks they could add to the battle system to make it a little bit more interesting.
That would be cool. I like the weak point idea. Definitely.
It also makes sense because he does have sniper rifles in the original.
Yeah.
Which I think the only thing they actually do is raise the attack percent to 255 so that he basically hits every time. And if you equip the Death Blow materia on Vincent with that weapon on, it never misses. Because Death Blow materia usually lets you attack with a guaranteed critical if you hit. But I think the hit rate is like 70% or something like that. But with Vincent's attack percent of 255, it cancels out and he basically hits every time. So you have a free critical if you use Death Blow with that weapon. So this could be translated into the new battle system this way with just using a sniper shot ability or a unique ability as triangle, maybe something like that. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, this sounds awesome. I'm super excited. Just thinking about the possibilities.
Yeah.
Let's take it a step further, like Mortal Kombat, and it's like an X-ray, and you can see their heart, and then you aim for that.
Right, yeah. True, yeah. X-ray, and then you see a few parts, and then you just have to make out which one's the weak point, which ones are not.
Yeah. They would never show the actual heart and then you shoot them and blood comes out. Like that's not going to happen.
Of course not.
But that would be cool if you switch to like some kind of an X-ray vision where you can see the weak parts and then you aim for those or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It would be pretty cool. And as I said before, the weapon upgrade system, if they keep it and then you could certain weapons could improve the sniper shot and some even show explicitly, this is the weak point. But not all of them. So if you choose another weapon to fight with and that weapon has this ability not unlocked or doesn't have it at all, then you just don't see it and then you need to guess or just remember where it actually is.
Okay.
So yeah. And the elephant in the room, his limit breaks. I think Tom already touched on that he could be not controlled by the player, but basically act as an uncontrollable party member like Sonon or even the summons. Yeah. So he turns into a summon that you can select through on the tactical menu. Instead of summon, it says Vincent or it says Chaos or Gallant Beast or whatever. And then you can click on it and then issue commands. And then he does it. That's the only thing you can a little bit control him. I think this would be pretty cool. The only question I have is, should it be timed or always last until the end of the battle? Because if it's during a boss battle, he's basically out of it until the end. But if it's timed, maybe just 1 minute or something, like the summons are also timed. They don't reside forever. I think this could be a good compromise. That he is just in this state for a little while and then returns. And in this state, he's basically just another summon.
Yeah, I really hope it's like that. I really hope it is.
And when the time runs out, he also, like the summons, unleashes a finisher attack of sorts. This would be pretty cool, I think.
They're going to have to, if it's like that, then balancing that is going to be tough because it's the only character that essentially has a limit break that is a summon with a separate bar, like a summon bar. Like the rest of the party, they just have limit breaks that they do. It's like a cutscene. They do massive damage and then it's over.
Well, it doesn't need to have like a summon bar. There could be like this other indicator on his status area in the top right or something like that. Or maybe there is a timer that pops up that you see, he's on the field for this long. of course, I could also see them making him controllable so that he basically just transforms for for a while. That he is in Gallant Beast or in I forgot the others, the Death Gigas or
Yes.
Gigas, and the other Hellmasker and Chaos. Maybe there's a new one in between. But probably not, because if there's 4 parts and he is fully playable in part 3 and 4, then 3 would have 2 transformations, and the last part also 2 transformations with the most important one, Chaos. I could see that that's happening as well. But making him controllable and just limit his abilities to those specific to his transformation could also work. But I'm not sure. I think him being not controllable makes a bit more sense because he unleashes.
I think so too.
Yeah, for lore and story reasons, because he is, not really in control of the unleashing of the beast. On the other hand, in their Cerberus, he is controllable, but first of all, that one's 3 years later. He probably got those things under control, his inner demons. And he's also alone, so making him uncontrollable for a while would not be satisfactory for the player anyway. So that's probably why they made the Gallant Beast and Chaos controllable. But for Remake here, with a party setup, I could see him just turning into a summon. And since they already have this, the assets, or not the assets, but the code for it, the system for it, it's also pretty easy to implement, I'd wager.
I hope they do that, because I can also just see them doing a cutscene where he turns into it and then like does the attack and then goes back to his normal form. So it's like just a cutscene that happens, and then you don't control him like as the monster.
Yeah, that would be the lamest option, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
If they did do that, then they would save themselves a lot of time coding. I feel like having to give you control, or even uncontrollable, just like trying to figure out that. Like also with the summons, they had smaller summons that you could use, but then you couldn't use the big summons in certain situations. So then they
because
also
they were
have
too
to
big,
implement that, because maybe it's like, okay, he has his limit break, but there's not enough space in this corridor for him to turn into the beast. So what are they going to do? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, to be fair, his transformations aren't all as big.
I know they're not as big.
It
like
could work. That's. I think it should work. And from a coding perspective, coming from a programmer's background, I personally would actually just make Vincent basically disappear and disable his how do you say, just his character on the battle.
Okay.
Or on the battlefield, and then just add a summon. That's basically one of Vincent's transformations, and then let that one loose, because the system is already in place. Just needs another mesh, and other textures, other attacks, and rigging and animations and what have you. So this would be pretty easy to implement, because the system is there. You only need to implement the switch between Vincent and the summon, and then switch back after the summon basically disappears and made its last attack, final attack, and then it's just Vincent again. I could see this happening, because then while he's not controllable, it wouldn't make much sense to. Well, maybe they should retain his status area, because we still need to know how much HP he has. And then see if he's being attacked, then maybe he gets knocked out before the timer ends, and then this he returns to his normal self, but is then KO'd. Maybe it's grayed out that you see, oh, it's not, we're not in control of him, but he's still there. So I think from a coding perspective, this would be the most straightforward option. But yeah, I'm not really a game developer. I have dabbled in game development, and I'm usually programming just normal applications. So I don't know too much about the ins and outs of engines, especially Unreal Engine. I've only used 2D engines in the past, like RPG Maker and Game Maker Studio and stuff. Those I know pretty well, but 3D engines, basically no. I have basically no experience in them. So, but only from a logical perspective, I'd do what I just explained, using him as a summon, because the systems are in place.
I think if they don't do that, then a lot of people are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. I think uncontrollable party member can issue commands that consume ATB.
Yes, exactly. Just like summons. Because then he is a little bit controlled, not just doing his own thing like in the original, but you can still say, okay, now I want to do this, and I want to do that, which makes a little bit of sense, but you can't direct him, or you can't move him around, you can't block, you can't attack normally, you can't use limit breaks, of course. And he will also attack normally on his own. But for example, Galleon Beast has this combo attack and the fire attack. I don't remember its name, but there's some explosion fire attack. So you could just unleash those two by using ATB, and you're good. I think that could work. It's a good compromise between completely uncontrollable and being controllable and just looking differently. But I think it should be timed and not until the end of the battle.
Yeah.
Especially looking back at Materia Keeper, which is basically the first boss after you acquire Vincent. And then you want to use his limit break, of course. And if you're not over-leveled, he will get his limit break. And then Galleon Beast appears. And if you're unlucky, he keeps using that stupid fire attack. And Materia Keeper absorbs fire. So I've seen... I think if you're speedrunning and not naturally you're under-leveled, this is basically a soft lock. Because you can't... If he keeps using the fire attack, Materia Keeper gets healed more than you can deal damage, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw a clip from Caleb Hart, I think it was, the speedrunner, and counted this, or was it another speedrun? I don't remember. But it was pretty hilarious because it's basically over. You can start again. And if he was timed, then you only had this, were in this predicament for maybe a minute or two, maybe only 30 seconds. I don't quite know how long it should take, but you're not doomed forever. So, yeah, and on top of that, you could synergize with him and use his, let's just say, summon limit abilities synergized, if that's allowed. I could this also see happening. But since he's uncontrollable, maybe not, because you can also... You probably shouldn't be able to synergize with summons, although that would be pretty cool. We'll talk about later, but synergy with summons, I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Just everything that we're talking about, the possibilities, it just sounds like the combat system, if they incorporate some of these things, is just going to be like insane. It's going to be it's going to be insane. Like, yes, so much better than Remake Part 1 battle system, which I love, but Intermission just improved on that even more.
Yes. You know? Better air combat, synergy, and all those things. Really cool.
Yeah. Well, for me, I totally agree with a lot of what you said. A lot of it was what I wrote is the same. I just said that I can see him being more of an aerial shooter. And what I mean by that is shooting in the air. So not like obviously shooting from the ground as well, but then he can also kind of blink in the air and shoot close range to like a flying enemy and then do even more damage, probably because they're flying. So maybe they're more susceptible to like gunshots. And then they are capacitated, they fall to the ground, or they're just like being juggled, you know what I mean? Like they're being disabled.
Oh, what I can see is by using sniper shot and hitting their weakness, flying enemies will instantly drop down and be pressured. And then you can just unleash them and stagger them. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. And Barrett can still obviously shoot. like quick succession and do lower damage, but it's not incapacitating them. You know what I mean? It's working up their pressure gauge, but it doesn't, just absolutely destroy the enemy.
I think Barret isn't even able to bring them to the ground. I think it's only when Cloud or Tifa continuously attack, that they may hit the ground or something. But I don't think Barret or even Aerith are able to do anything other than just damaging flying enemies. But I could remember wrong, because I wasn't paying too much attention to the details of aerial combat. I just played.
Yeah, I think that Barret can use like Overpower, or there's another ability where he does quick succession shots that are more powerful from far away.
The overcharge.
Yeah, and then those will, like, I think it causes the pressure bar to go up even more, and then he can essentially like stagger an enemy, and then it falls down once it's staggered.
Focus shot may also maybe hits on it a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but could be.
But yeah, so that was my thought process. Just like zipping behind the enemy that's flying and shooting them close range, and then also, like you said, just like snipering. That's not a word. Sniping them.
Sniping. It's a new word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could also see him when he's in short range mode and fisticuffs and kicking mode. He could, if you're attacking and you're on the ground, he zips up to the enemy with his cape thingy to the enemy up top, and then it's also much better, a much better feeling for the player to do aerial combat, and kind of like Yuffie, who just zooms up or can throw the shuriken, then attack it a little bit, and then zip right towards the enemy and snatch the shuriken, then keep going, and then slashing it down to the ground. So it's this could work much better, and I'm pretty sure that Tifa and Cloud will also receive a little bit of improvement in the aerial combat. I certainly hope so, because those two feel a little bit clunky, and when the enemy flies away a little bit faster, then they just hit the air. Especially Tifa, that is just, it feels weird.
Yeah, how many times did I, queue up an attack using ATB, just like, going into the menu and then choosing something, and then the enemy already started flying away, so the enemy is no longer in that position, and then she's just doing the, star shower attack or whatever it is, not even that, it's something else, like a different attack animation, and they're not even there, so she's not hitting anything anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Normal attacks, it's not that much of a problem because you don't use up resources, but it's still, it just, Tifa sticks in the air and just hits the air, and the enemy is already on the other side of the battle area.
Yeah, that happened so many times in the battle sim too. I got really frustrated.
Yeah.
Or
in the Coliseum.
Yeah, exactly. But that's pretty much all I wanted to add about Vincent.
I'm so stoked to see and play Vincent.
Same.
Very interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited. All right, so moving on here, we're going to be talking about Cid.
Oh, good old Cid. I hope they keep his little cigarettes stubble in his mouth that he's constantly smoking. I know. I find this charming, even if it sets a bad example, because smoking is less and less accepted, I feel, and is considered really unhealthy. But on the other hand, it's a game, it's a quirk, it's part of him. He lights the dynamite with his cigarette. This is so cool. And if he first needs to pick out a cigarette and light it first, then light the dynamite, that's just not the same. It just needs to hold it up, light it, and throw it. This should just be there.
That's interesting, because I'm not sure like what rating the game will have to be, just the fact that he has a cigarette in his mouth, because it shows a cigarette.
Well, I don't think teen rating is a problem there, or it's not a problem for teen rating, because President Shinra also smoked a cigarette.
That's true.
Cigar in the meeting. And I think it also said smoking a cigar in the rating description
Yeah.
somewhere. And I'm pretty sure this is not really much of a problem.
Yeah. I hope he keeps it. Or
Yeah,
they'll do something meta and he's like vaping instead.
maybe, but then he can't light a dynamite because this is such a badass move.
Maybe he vapes and like fire breath comes out. No, I'm joking. He drinks gasoline and then just like lights his breath on fire.
This is even more unhealthy than just smoking a cigarette.
Oh
boy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Sid as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sid is a fun one, especially I like Dragoons.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start. The attack. Naturally spear combo, like just slice and pierce and hit and bonk and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure this is a given. It's not too much of a surprise or something special.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hold a square, I think you could just perform a 360-degree spear swing, just swing around himself or something.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I like that.
Just now, I thought of something. He's a dragoon, so he jumps in the air. He loves to jump. So maybe if you hold square instead of a spear swing, he could also make a not so high jump, like a lower jump, and attack from above. Okay. This could also work. Maybe this could be his first limit break turned into a normal hold square attack.
Okay.
But then his real limit break is just a much, much higher Dragoon jump, which does more damage, or maybe damage to all surrounding enemies or something. Like it's a little bit of an AoE. I think he has 3 abilities where he jumps into the air. One is the first limit break, where it just jumps up and onto the enemy. Another one is jump up higher, and then if basically eagles down, or how do we call it when an eagle flies down to the ground? I forgot the English word for it, but it just flies back to the ground, hits the ground, and then basically damages all enemies. Ooh, and then the third one is jumping up, down, up and down, random enemies, single ones. I think it's a dragon something it's called. So he has 3 limit breaks, and I'm pretty sure they don't want to use 3 similar limit breaks as actual limit breaks to make it more diverse. That each limit break is really unique. So it could be that his normal just jump up and hit the enemy could be the hold square attack. The jump up into the air high for quite some time, and then slash down onto one enemy with some AoE damage, some area damage, could be an ability. And then the limit break could be the jump up and down, jump up and down, jump up and down. He just like jumps up and down on one enemy multiple times. This could be his actual first jumping limit break, something like that. Just to spread them out over all these gameplay elements or battle elements a bit. I could see this. But also, I wouldn't be mad if they just use a spear swing, just damage all enemies all around him, maybe make him stagger a little bit or push him back, something like that.
Yeah, my idea was he sticks the spear in the ground and then he goes around it. Instead of him twirling around, he sticks it in the ground, he jumps on it, and then he's like kicking all the way around in a circle or something like that.
Didn't Jackie Chan do this in one of his movies where he's like grabs a pole and then just basically runs from enemy head to enemy head?
Yes.
Like he runs like 90 degrees in the air or something. It's pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That would be awesome.
For sure, yeah. On the other hand, he could also dodge this way, like stick the spear into the ground and then swing around to the other side to dodge the attack, something like that.
That's
then
true.
He could stick the spear into that, dodge, stick the spear into the ground, dodge, and this would also look pretty funny when you just keep dodging and dodging and dodging.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And maybe the parry is similar, but with damage. I don't know. This could also work. I thought about coming up with parry attacks, but I thought, no, this is overboard. We should just focus on normal attacks, all those normal maneuvers and abilities and limit breaks, because otherwise we'll be here all evening or all day for you, because it's evening for me
Yes,
now.
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, blocking pretty much holds the spear in front of him. I don't think there's much else to be said about it. Kind of similar to Cloud, just with a spear instead of a sword. And coming back to jump, I also had the idea of the triangle ability being the jump. So
Okay.
you press triangle, hold it for a little bit, like Aerith, like you can hold it for at most a second. And then this or a multiple of this is the time he will stay in air. And while he's in air, he's invulnerable. Let's say you press for a second, then it's fully loaded. You release, and then he jumps into the air for, let's say, 2 seconds, and then rushes down into the enemy. And while he's up, he's invulnerable, because that's basically a traditional Dragoon ability. For example, Final Fantasy IX, Freya does this as well. I think it's just a normal ability she has. Jump, I think it's called jump, and then she's just for maybe 1 or 2 rounds or something in the air, and nothing can hit her. And this is strategically important, because when you see the enemy prepare a devastating attack, he can just yeet himself out of the picture basically for a few seconds and then attack, while the others are KO'd, awesome. And then he can revive the others, something like that.
Yes.
So whether it's triangle attack or hold square, I'm pretty sure he won't jump up that much. But if it's an ability or a triangle attack, I'm pretty much don't really care which one of it is. But I really want them to implement this traditional Dragoon attack where he flees the field for a few seconds and then attacks. Because otherwise, he's not a real Dragoon, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I said jumping super high that he's off screen. Like, I don't think you see him.
Exactly.
He's just so high, and then he just crashes down on the target.
Basically, yeah. Because otherwise, I don't think there's much possibility for any character to be completely invulnerable. Unless maybe Brutal Form for Yuffie, because that's basically evading anything for half a second or a second. The others can't do that, so this would be a nice change, that somebody can actually do it and do it right and well.
I feel like if that's his main mechanic, it'll be super annoying if he can be disabled or like interrupted during that attack. Yeah,
exactly. I think as soon as he jumps off, he should be invulnerable or impervious to any attack until he hits the enemy, and then he's able to be hit again.
Like, so many times I'm trying to cast a magic ability or I'm doing something and then you just get hit and it's like,
it's gone.
The ATB bar is gone.
And the MP is gone.
The MP's got, like, everything's gone, but it didn't do anything. Or when you would cast, like, once I did a limit break and it was like the enemy went into like the next phase of the battle.
Yes.
And my limit break did nothing because they weren't there. And then all my limit break bar was gone.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
That's something they really need to fix. That's maybe the limit break just stops. Maybe Cloud or whoever performs limit break stops just in his track and then keeps going afterwards. Something like that.
I think it was the guard scorpion that I was doing that.
Be.
And it was
oh right, it jumps away. Yeah, it jumps away.
Yeah, he jumps away, and I used it. I was like, anyway.
Yeah, this is really annoying. The phase change. They really need to do something about that to make it less annoying and also visible. I think did we talk about this, or was it somewhere else? I think we talked about this, how they could improve upon this. I think it was on our first spoiler cast where we talked about
it was
mechanics and stuff.
Yeah,
because showing where the phases are on the health bar would be very, very beneficial. Then you see, it's almost done for this.
That makes sense,
because it doesn't really matter, because you see how much health he has, but seeing where the splits are would make much more sense for planning perspective, because then you can say, okay, let's just finish this phase and then use limit break. Because losing a limit break is so annoying in this game, because it's hard to gain and it's gone after the battle anyway. So it's only for this battle, and if you just waste it and then can't build it up again, it's just like, come on. You screw me, game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do we even see the HP bar for the enemy?
Yeah, we do see it. That's without sense or anything. It's just there. That's what I like. So all the enemies have health bars and pressure bars. That's always there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So we see it, but we don't see where the cutoff points are for the phase change.
Yeah. It would be nice if we had a little indicator, or they just had multiple HP bars. So maybe one is green, one is blue, or one's blue, one's green, and one's red. So like the last phase is red because they're almost dead or something like that.
Or like Kingdom Hearts 2 did it with the dots underneath the health bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Kingdom Hearts 1, they had different colored bars, but in 2, it was always green, but they had the dots underneath. So if one health bar goes down to 0, it fills up again, but one dot is missing underneath. So you see, there are so many health bars on one boss or enemy or whatever. And like for Remake, this could work, because then I think this could work even better, because then each phase has its own health bar, and you don't know how much health it has, because when you analyze it, you only see or assess it. You see only the total HP, and do not know how much HP each phase has.
Exactly.
So then it's even more mysterious. Then you bring it down to 0 health, and then you know, okay, this phase is done, but you have no idea about the next phase. You just know how many phases there are. I think this could work a little bit better for planning, and that you don't really know what's to come, because if the first phase is like 10% of his HP bar, next one is another 30, and then maybe 20, you just don't know how much is still there. But if you see the health bar from the beginning, you don't really, you know exactly, okay, he has like 10% left, I'm almost there. So yeah, it's I think it could work, but who knows? Maybe they'll just keep it.
Yeah, I just had an idea. Maybe it doesn't show you like the phase, the little dots for each phase, like outside of combat. So even if you analyze, it won't show you, because I feel like some people might feel that that's a spoiler, because then if they go into a battle and they see 5 dots, you're like, oh god, this is like a 5 phase enemy. So maybe it's just when the enemy's HP is almost all gone, then a dot appears or something appears to show that it's about to go into the next phase, maybe a little icon.
Or nothing. Maybe just nothing. It's just a health bar, and if it goes to 0 and it has a next phase, then it will go, and you have no idea if there will be a next phase. Because then you just say, okay, this phase is done. Now he charges up again, next phase. But you don't know if there's a third or a fourth. And then you just bring it back down to 0 again. Oh, it charges up again. Oh, again. Maybe this could also be frustrating, because...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that idea, where it's separate HP bars, but you only see one, and you think that's the total, but it's just that HP bar for that phase. Because the issue right now is that it's one HP bar with the full HP pool, but then we didn't know, like, okay, it gets down to this percentage or this amount, then it goes on to the next phase. I like that idea. You don't even need to show dots. It's just that when you know it's close to the end, then...
Yeah, don't waste the limit break.
Yeah, I'll use it maybe to get to the next phase, or I'm going to use it at the beginning of the next phase then, you know? So I like that idea.
Exactly. The only thing is that when you assess the enemy, you would see the whole HP, and then how much HP it still has. So it wouldn't be that much of a mystery anymore, but since there are numbers, it's just not immediately visible. You just see, oh, okay, there is more to him than just this one HP bar. Maybe, I don't know. There are pros and cons. I think the current system works. It's just really, really annoying when you don't know where the cutoff point is, because you lose your attacks.
Especially if it's your first playthrough.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because you haven't memorized the patterns of the boss battles yet, so you don't know when it's going to happen. So you risk losing it.
that's why I think the best compromise would just be indicators for where the cutoff points are for the phases.
Yeah.
So that you see the whole bar, but you see it segmented, and then but then again, you see how long or how much HP each phase has. That's also giving away too much. So it's hard to say. But again, we've gone off topic like we love to do. You guys are love this too, I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, for me, for Sid, I just added that I think that maybe Dynamite actually becomes an ability instead of a limit break.
Yeah, that works pretty much. I think that works, yeah.
You know, so he lights the dynamite, throws it in, and then it explodes and does damage, but it's an ability instead of a limit break.
Yeah, it's not as flashy to be a limit break, I feel. Like Braver is also not flashy enough. That's why it's an ability now.
Yeah, they could just make it flashy, but just a little bit like not as flashy as a limit break. Yeah. Although it would be really cool if they did it as a limit break.
Yeah, the like the first phase of the animation would be him pulling out a dynamite stick and then lighting a cigarette and really focusing on this part. You only see like the part of his mouth and the cigarette and the dynamite.
The dynamite, yeah.
Yeah. And then it zooms out again and then he throws, yeah. This would be pretty cool camera work.
He throws it in and then turns around and looks at the camera and gives you a thumbs up and then it explodes.
Yes, and in the background is a huge explosion. Yeah, this would be nice. Yeah, I'd love that. This could work as a limit break. But still, I think it could work as a ability as well. It wouldn't be as cool because you'd have to really look closely to see that he's lighting the dynamite with a cigarette.
That's true.
Yeah, we'll see. I think both could work.
I said that it would be cool if they had some kind of an ability where he summons like missiles or something from the tiny Bronco, or maybe it's, you know, maybe Shara is like
right, yeah,
at the controls, and he's just like on a walkie-talkie, like, we need some missiles, and she's like, coming your way. And then they just like show up and there's like or something like that.
Well, his ultimate limit break in the original is already kind of like that.
Yes,
it's called High Wind, and it shoots down I think 19 or 20 missiles, something like that.
I was thinking of something like a drone or something even that will come in and like it's shooting for a bit while.
Yes, this could work like an autonomous flying saucer or something that just enters the battlefield and annoys the enemies a little bit with lasers, what have you. I don't know.
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Because he's got some tech, you know, like
yes, he certainly
like out
does.
of the whole party, isn't he the one that has like most of the tech stuff?
Yeah, at least he knows about tech stuff because he's freaking a rocket pilot. He needs to know his rocket science.
He has the tech, so I feel like he would be the one to call in some kind of a drone or, you know, something. I mean, outside of like Cait Sith or Cait or whatever.
Yeah, but Cait doesn't really do anything. He just has the resources to call something because of Reeve, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I get your point. And I'm pretty sure he built the tiny Bronco himself. I'm pretty sure because it's in his yard and he's been like working on it for quite some time, have you? And it's I don't think this is officially confirmed somewhere, unless I'm forgetting. But I'm pretty sure he built it himself. It certainly looks like that.
Imagine the tiny Bronco just like shows up and flies down, he jumps on it and then like flies him into the air and then he jumps off of it and goes down and pierces them. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, this could work. Or maybe in between, Tiny Bronco comes, he jumps on it, then he uses the Tiny Bronco to shoot a few missiles into the battlefield and then jumps off and then also performs a flying spear attack as well.
That'd be so cool.
This could be maybe his second limit break for the part he appears in, maybe. Like Ascension for Cloud, which was also pretty flashy. Originally Clim Hazard, but with a little pinch of Omnislash put into. But Yeah, I could see the tiny Bronco being used or something like that. But on the other hand, if you're using the tiny Bronco as a vehicle to go around the place, and then we're very much inland or even within the Temple of the Ancients, and so we're inside in a cave, and then the tiny Bronco comes, I think this would be, I don't know, weird.
True. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't really. No, it doesn't. But I don't know. Maybe the cutscene where we steal a tiny Bronco could be expanded upon heavily, where he does some stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And one last thing, I'm pretty sure Cid could use an attack called Focus Piercer, like focused thrust, focused shot, and focused.
Yep.
What is it called again? Tifa Strike? Focused Strike, right? It was. And just another focused attack that drives up the stagger gauge once it's pressured, or much more than usual. I think Cid is destined to have one. Maybe Vincent also has one. I don't know, because Aerith doesn't have one. Vincent might not need it because he has other means of quickly staggering enemies. So, but Cid, I can see Cid receiving a focus piercer or something like that.
Yeah, me too. Maybe he throws it.
Maybe, yeah. Javelin attack.
Yeah, like he throws it at them and then runs in, pulls it out, and then
this could work,
hits them with it. I don't know.
Hits him with a bonk with the blunt side.
Headbutts it.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, exactly. Headbutt with his goggles on his head.
Yeah, that would be cool. Or he throws it at them, it's stuck in them, then he runs towards them and then burns them with his cigarette. He pulls the cigarette out of his mouth and he's like,
he puts it out on the enemy and burns.
On the enemy. And then he like grabs it out.
Yeah, and then he pulls out another cigarette, lights it, and then keeps fighting.
He just like takes the cigarette, blows a puff of smoke in its face.
Yeah, and then it's poisoned or something. Bad breath.
With some witty comment.
Yep. Exactly, something like that.
Lots of swearing, like, you little bitch.
Oh yeah, I can see that. He's much more the swearing type than Barrett is, even. Really, the foul-mouthed one.
We already saw a bunch of swearing in part 1, so...
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
All right, so moving on here, we're talking about Cait Sith, or Cait Shi.
Cait Shi, however you pronounce it, yeah. We'll see when the remake part 2 arrives.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. So Tom was just wondering, he didn't know how they were going to pull this off. So he was thinking, like, will Cait Sith issue commands to the giant Moogle? Or the Moogle just, pummels the enemies? Or is it the actual megaphone that's causing the damage? Because apparently, like Cait Sith controls the Moogle with the megaphone, like giving him instructions. So he was just confused and didn't know. And I was like, interesting. And also, I'm not too sure, but we're going to talk about it right now. So did you want to give your thoughts about how Cait Sith might work in battle?
Yeah, for certain. It's really hard to come up with stuff that is not just quirky and actually works. And I also didn't include his megaphone much because I'm pretty sure I think Cait Shi uses his megaphone to instruct the Moogle, but we as players actually control the Moogle or control it through Cait Shi. So for us players, it doesn't make any difference. But for lore reasons, it's Cait Shi who issues commands like attack, and we should also hear that. It's like attack him, pummel him, do this, do that, roll over, cool. Whatever. Just that we hear Cait Shi, the cat on top of the Moogle, actually saying what the Moogle should do, and the Moogle will do it, and taunt the enemies or something. So, well, he could also, maybe there could be new abilities where he could maybe disencourage the enemies, like confuse him or silence him or something like that. But I have something later on for the megaphone. But first, normal attack. I'm pretty sure it's just like in the original. You steer the Moogle, the Moogle runs around and just hits the enemies with his arms, with his blunt arms, just and just pummels them. I think this is straightforward, works, and I don't think there's much more to say about this. But holding down square, maybe he spins around with his arms held out like a propeller or something.
Yeah.
This could work. Then dodge, just a roll sideways or forward, backward, and Kechi has to stay on the Moogle by running in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Something like that. Blocking, I think it could work that Kechi, when he blocks, it stays still. It's like a bunker. It just is there. You can't move during block, but the damage is also much more decreased, like maybe to a fourth of the damage instead of just half.
Okay.
But he can't move during blocking. He's just there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Moogle is just such a big thing that blocking and just slowly moving around, I don't think works that much. Maybe it could, but in my mind, it makes sense that he blocks and just stays there. It becomes like this iron wall of whatever. And blocks anything. And this he could actually be the tank in the group next to Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with high HP, high defense, and the better block and stuff. And the taunt ability, which I'll talk about soon. But first, triangle. I could see Kechi also switching modes. So Moogle mode, he would jump off the Moogle, stay somewhere, and instruct the Moogle what to do. And the Moogle then has much more freedom to do anything because he doesn't need to keep the cat on top. So it's much more mobile, can roll around like crazy and attack. And the attack pattern movement is significantly different because of that. The Moogle might even take less damage, but if somebody attacks the exposed Cait, who would just like stand or move around somewhere, if that one's attacked, it will cause double damage or much more damage, and Moogle mode immediately ends because the Moogle will then rush back and protect Cait again. Kind of like Punisher mode. As soon as you get hit by no, I think only when you roll, when you dodge, it exits Punisher mode. But you can't block long range attacks or magic attacks. But I don't think it ends Punisher mode. But when you dodge, it ends it. And here, if Kechi gets attacked, it ends Moogle mode as compensation. And of course, big damage if the Kechi gets attacked. I think this could work and also make him much more quirky and a little bit more interesting and more risk rewarding, because he is all about this risk reward and random generator stuff. And yeah, I think this could work. So for new abilities, I came up with Moogle Cannon, which is basically the same as Ninja Cannon in Intermission. Cait just jumps off and the Moogle just throws itself or rolls in high speed towards the enemy, bounces off, jumps back to Kechi, and then he gets onto the Moogle again. This may result in a hit stun, like immediately cancels enemy attacks or whatever they were doing. Maybe pressure the enemy if they're not too buff, like Chronomogger or bigger bosses. And if there's Moogle mode enabled, it will end Moogle mode because the Moogle goes back to Kechi. And now for a really interesting idea I had. Taunt. Kechi just shouts at the enemy, some random obscenities, whatever. And this has a random effect. Either it provokes the enemy, that it only attacks Cait, or it pressures the enemy, or it puts them into a berserk status, or mutes them, or slows them down, or stuns them for a few seconds, or it does nothing and the enemy just, I don't care about you, and attacks another party member. Because that would speak to his randomness, as we've seen in Limit Breaks in the original. And hang on, I forgot to write down Limit Breaks, but Or did I? No, I forgot about them. But limit breaks, I can see. No, I think I know why I skipped on them, because I will talk about them in the next segment. Right. That's why.
So for me, I just said something similar for normal attack. I said punching, spinning arms, wind up attack. But I said like those old school cartoons where like they have their arm back and their fist is like twirling like that, and then
right,
punching, and then like the weight of his fist, it like carries him forward into the enemy, something like that.
This could be the hold square attack too.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. It's like one of those old school cartoon, like you know what I mean? Just absolutely ridiculous.
He needs to be ridiculous. Yeah, that's catchy. He needs to be ridiculous for sure.
I said he does have like the Moogle has little wings on the back, so I thought for dodge maybe he jumps and you just see them flutter, and he jumps back and like flies a tiny bit and then lands.
This could work too.
Like
that's
fast, but like not, or rolling. I feel like he's similar to like Fat Chocobo, is just
exactly
rolling around the battlefield.
That's what I had in mind. Yeah, especially for Moogle mode, that he basically becomes Fat Chocobo and rolls around and does his stuff.
Exactly, and they already have that mechanic, but obviously he would move faster than Fat Chocobo, right?
Yes.
I agree with you with the Moogle mode. I said, what about both of them? Like they're both attacking, but they're separate, but you can't control Cait's attack. So the menu is showing the Moogle attack still, but like Cait's just like actually doing like claw swipes, maybe, instead of being like far away, you know what I mean? And issuing commands with like...
Yeah, maybe instead of controlling the Moogle, you control Catchy, and then have the ability to maybe issue commands. So basically, Moogle becomes a summon for Cait, something like that.
Something like that.
But without a timer, just until Cait gets hit or you end Moogle mode. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this could also work. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Something like that.
Because then you can still avoid attacks with Catchy, but not as good, because he would be rather slow because of his tiny feet. Tiny legs.
Exactly.
And dodging would also not be too far. Also, like the dodging distance wouldn't be that great, so he's much easier to hit. But it's a basically a risk reward system. You risk being hit and ending Moogle mode and taking tons of damage. But Moogle mode is pretty powerful, because the Moogle can basically do whatever he wants and damage enemies, roll around the battlefield, many AoE attacks, what have you. Yeah, this could work.
And I'm thinking increased damage from Moogle, but increased damage to Cait in that mode. So not necessarily increased defense. I'm thinking increased damage, but increased damage received and outputted. So, but like you said, once...
No damage to the Moogle itself. When it's around, it's just there. Like summons also don't take any damage, but Catchy will take damage, and you have to make sure that he doesn't get hit. But the Moogle also has increased damage output. But again, Cait is maybe in Moogle mode, the enemy is more likely to target Catchy, because they notice, that small thing, and then you really need to get out of harm's way. Yeah.
Yes. I just don't see Cait like jumping out of the battle and just kind of standing there. Unless you would control Moogle. Then the control would go to Moogle, and he's just off to the side.
Exactly.
Because you have to control something.
Yeah. Of course, the Moogle would be controlled, but then Catchy will just be alone there, and you as player couldn't do anything, and just at some time, the Moogle would automatically return to Catchy because he got hit and you haven't been able to do anything. So your suggestion makes much more sense. You control Catchy, and then you have the ability to evade attacks and let the Moogle do its thing.
Yeah, I like that idea for sure. And it's increased damage, but also increased damage received
for Catchy.
So then it's kind of like you can't be in that mode for too long. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, you can, but it's you will receive damage. Yeah. At some point.
So for blocking, I said, like you said, stand still, can't move. Then I said Cait could also jump in the back or
Oh,
hang
right.
off of the
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
Just hang off of maybe hanging on to the wings. Like he's
Yes.
just hanging onto the wings and then he's getting like saved basically or less
Yeah.
damage received and then he jumps back on him after.
I had in mind that it just lays flat onto the Moogle's head, which could also work because then he
That's
has
true.
basically no attack area. But going behind the Moogle could also work.
Yeah.
I think both work.
Yeah, and then I said for new abilities, or maybe it's a new limit break. I don't know. I just made it up. So I just called it self-destruct.
Huh.
So I said basically Cait like jumps off and said self-destruct to Moogle and Moogle just like runs in and then turns like blinks red and then explodes.
Yeah.
And then Cait Sith does more damage because he's without, but then it's kind of like Diva in Overwatch. So her ultimate is she's inside of this mech unit. So she flies it into battle. Her ultimate, like she flies it in, she jumps out, and then it goes, and then it explodes, but then she can call another one down.
Right.
So we're
This could
assuming that
work.
Reeve has control, right? So
Yeah.
basically it's like he can call down another one because there's another one waiting and Shinra just sends one in. And then he just like basically flies down and probably when he hits the ground, he also can stun or do damage. And then he jumps on it and then it's like a replacement unit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
And then this could also set up his sacrifice at the Temple of the Ancients, because then you think, oh, the Moogle is just it's a doll, it's disposable, but the cat on top is not. The cat is, then you might believe that the cat is not. And when Kechi goes to sacrifice himself by solving a puzzle, he goes in himself with the Moogle. So you can't think, okay, now it's really gone, because you can't bring back the cat. But then he does come back and, oh, that was a robot too. Oh, interesting. I think this could work. That's a good idea. I liked it. I like it.
And then also, we saw it in the battle simulator as well. There was a Moogle at one point that was throwing out these balls that would like turn into more enemies or something like that.
Yes, with the fat chocobo. And Moogles are also around helping him out and throwing stuff. Yeah.
My idea was just something crazy like that, where he just pulls stuff out of inside of him, and it's like a ball, and then he throws it out, but the ball turns into a creature that fights for you, like with you, but you don't control it, like one of the enemies.
Yeah.
Kind of like in 13-2, you can get the gems of like these creatures in the environment, but then they're part of your party, but it's not the same. It's just like they throw it out and then it fights for a bit and then dies or something like that.
Basically, robotic plush versions of real enemies.
Yeah. It's kind of like you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Maybe you throw something out and it actually is a powerful enemy, and then you have to kill that too, plus kill the boss, because it's like...
That would speak to Kechi's randomness.
Like he's screwing with you kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't know what to get. It's just a mystery box you throw out, and either it's like health for you, health for the enemy, another enemy that fights the enemy, or an enemy that fights you, or an explosion that hits everything in range, even you. Just stuff like that.
Or maybe it's like a Jack in the Box and then it opens up and there's a huge punching thing and it just like punches you in the face. Or the next thing that pops out, maybe it's like some HP restoration, or maybe it's buffs but also debuffs at the same time. Like it's just kind of like you never know what you're going to get.
Although it should be in your favor, so that's the chance is, it's a higher chance that it's something good for you, but it could be something bad.
Yeah.
But if it's bad, it's not as bad. Only if you're really, really unlucky, something really bad happens, like an explosion that puts all everybody's HP to 1, like from the party, not the enemy, because otherwise it's or all the enemy and you.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't work for bosses or taller ones, but maybe smaller mobs would get hit, and then it's just sudden death. Like the next that gets hit is dies. Something like that.
Yeah. Or if you destroy the thing that came out of it, like if it's an enemy like a hound or something, then the person that kills it gets a buff, like a slight buff.
Oh,
Maybe
right, yeah.
movement speed bonus or
something
like
like that.
something
Yeah,
like that. So it gives you incentive to actually
just
destroy it.
fun
You know what
stuff,
I
but
mean?
it's random, not always good, but you can turn it around if you know what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. Yeah. Yes, this would certainly fall within Catchy's MO for
And they
sure.
already have like I see the attack animations being like what the Mughals were already doing, where things were
Mm.
just kind of poof, and then also like
Yeah, exactly.
those stars appearing.
Yeah.
You know, because there was a lot of stars, particles,
Mm.
and stuff like that. Like I
Mm.
feel like they were already kind of playing with those battle mechanics that we'll probably
Mm.
end up seeing, or the animations, because they're just going to
Mm.
reuse those for
Oh,
like
probably,
Cait
yeah,
Sith,
probably.
something like that. But anyway, just an idea. But yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
much
for
all I
sure.
have.
Yes, I like that.
All right, guys. So moving on to the next topic here, we're talking about how synergy and character switching might be implemented. So, did you want to start us off with this section, Viz?
Yes, please. So synergy, this is something that they got my big brain going while playing intermission, because this is such a cool idea, and you can synergize or not.
Mm-hmm.
And with just two characters and one of them not even playable, it's already interesting. But when you have a full party, how would this work, and what possibilities would this open up? This
Mm-hmm.
I think this has a lot of potential, and I think the best way it could work is the same as an intermission. You just activate it, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
basically all the characters are synergized, and the ones that you are not controlling gain less ATB, just like an intermission. However, there are certain abilities that uh, can be synergized. For example, well, maybe not braver, but something else can be synergized. Let's say,
Like focus thrust or something? I don't know.
yeah, maybe focus thrust or something like that. Just synergized focus thrust, let's say, and then uh, you're in control of T-FUT and you synergize with everyone. Use select Cloud by pressing what was it, L2 or
Mm-hmm.
R2? Just switch to Cloud without actually switching. To switch to his menu, and then
Mm-hmm.
abilities, and then select synergized focus thrust. Then Tifa jumps onto his sword. Cloud sweeps forward towards the
Mm-hmm.
enemy, and then Tifa also jumps up and gets in a real hard velocity punch
Mm-hmm.
through Cloud's a movement or something like that. Yeah, probably not the best example, but the first thing that came to my mind. But I think just certain abilities could just work well with each other, or just create new, or they need to create new ones for that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe those in part one don't really lend themselves towards synergized
Mm-hmm.
versions because they were not made to be synergized. So we need new
Yeah.
abilities, which, well, I welcome new abilities, because otherwise using all the same in all three or four parts would be boring. So create new synergy abilities that can be used alone or synergize with the others. Then it's just a question if all characters are able to synergize with that ability, and they have a system which makes it easy to just replace characters and doing basically the same. Even if Tifa is small, slender, and light, and Barrett is this huge thing, and or even Catchy has completely different
Mm-hmm.
physiology. So maybe this doesn't quite work. Maybe it's or each synergized ability is only limited to certain characters that work.
Yeah.
Certain combinations. Maybe there are synergized abilities that work for all three. That they maybe it's some charged attack and then they just all charge at the same time or something like that, or it's just a 1, 2, 3 hit. One attacks, the other one jumps off or uses that movement to initiate their attack, and from that attack, the third one initiates their attack. And if they are able to make them modular, basically all those synergized attacks, that it can happen in any order. I'm pretty sure this is not easy to handle, but it could work and would open up so many possibilities to synergize many different attacks together. So yeah.
Absolutely. The thing that I added about the synergized system is it a default? So, like, for example, Yuffie teaches that system to us by getting her in our party, so then everybody has access to that? Or if the synergized system is a part of Yuffie, so like she has to be an active party member in the battle, and then you have access to these synergized attacks. And then if she swaps out, then the next person comes in, you can't do them because it's like basically Yuffie has to be there.
I think this would be too restrictive, and then because synergized attacks are usually much cooler for one, and maybe better in some ways. I think it should work for all of them, but I agree that it could be beneficial for Yuffie to teach us those, like to she's after a materia, right? So she needs to bring something to the group that they don't suspect or that they need her. And teaching him how to use synergized abilities, or maybe work together much better. Then she has contributed something to the group. They trust her more, stuff like that. I think this could even work in terms of story. And we don't need to learn synergy from the get-go. On the other hand, it really depends on how they handle battles in the flashback. Because a synergy between Cloud and Sephiroth, maybe they change something up a little bit that make this work without us actively playing Sephiroth, and without Cloud having to command Sephiroth what to do, because it's more like the other way around. I think we already talked about this in the past. So if they want to introduce that already in the flashback to some degree, then this wouldn't work with Yuffie, because then the game already introduced it, and then we want to use it right after as well. However,
true.
If Yuffie is the one teaching us that, we have time to get to know the characters a little better. Maybe they have new triangle abilities, or a little bit different triangle abilities, new normal abilities, to just get us accustomed to maybe other gameplay changes in terms of combat. And then Yuffie comes along, and then we get synergized attacks. It could work. On the other hand, I personally would prefer them to introduce it right from the start. And then this is this new thing for part 2, because it was already introduced in intermission.
That's true.
Yeah. But I'm good either way, because in the end, it needs to make fun, it needs to make sense. It needs to feel like they don't hold back too much, like in Final Fantasy XIII. The tutorial was like 20 hours long, and it ended only when you reach this open plain. I think it was past the middle point. So, and everything before was like one little gameplay element at a time. Then this, and then that, and then this character, and then those combinations, then 3, and then more.
It was restrictive.
Yeah, exactly. And then more paradigms unlocked one after the other. And it was so slow to unlock all those cool things. And in the beginning, you were locked to, I think, one paradigm. You could basically just maybe attack, block, use fire or something. It was so restrictive in the beginning. And I don't want that for Remake Part 2. So for that, I'm good with synergy from the start. But it's good work if they throw many more gameplay elements at us before that, because I'm pretty sure we won't get Yuffie after Fort Condor. Fort Condor is probably the latest point we will get her, because I'm pretty sure they want us to have her in at Fort Junon already, and then for the cargo ship, and not hold her back too much, because then it's already catchy time in the Gold Saucer. So it makes sense to have the flashback, Calm, Chocobo Ranch, marshes, the Mythal Caves, and then we have the first new character from Fort Condor. Then we have Junon, the cargo ship. Costa del Sol doesn't really have any battles, but then the path to Corral, North Corral, then Gold Source, and then we have a new character as well. And then we have Gongaga, Cosmo Canyon, Nibelheim, and then it's the end of part 2, if it ends there. If. And then both characters that are new are spread out evenly. And then at the end,
Yeah.
we get a taste of Vincent. That's how I imagine it right now, if it's 4 parts.
Sounds good.
So, Fort Condor is important, especially since I think it will be heavily expanded upon in terms of Avalanche and Wutai and the synergy between Avalanche and Wutai, and then we learn synergy there with the help of Yuffie to make her more important to the team, and the others trust her more. I think this could work pretty well.
I think so, yeah. I think the earlier the better because we already used it.
Yes, that's true.
But I can see them keeping it, like not giving it to us like right away at the beginning.
Also, I think using it in a 3-party battle where all party members are controllable, it would be a little bit more maybe complex or not as easy to understand as in intermission, because in intermission it's just you activate it, Sonon gets less ATB, and then you're just able to use a synergized attack. And I think certain normal attacks. Oh no, I think there's more to it. When you're synergized, Sonon instantly catches her when she gets hit. That's also a mechanic which I find pretty cool. And when Yuffie attacks, I think certain attacks end in this perpetual pummeling of an enemy where Yuffie and Sonon just pam, 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 jump up and slash down onto the enemy like endlessly if you keep attacking. I don't remember how this unlocks, but it's only available when you're synergized. So maybe normal attacks, like finishes of normal attacks can also be synergized, like combo attacks between characters. Maybe synergy also means only between 2 characters, and there are maybe different button combinations you have to use to synergize with Ally 1 or Ally 2. I don't know. At some point, we won't have enough buttons on the controller.
Right.
But I could see this being a little bit more complex than in intermission. So then it makes sense to wait on it until Yuffie comes along, and then it will be introduced, and then we learn slowly about that. And but then we already have been accustomed to the battle of the others and Red especially. And then it's not as much as at once that we need to learn and train and find out.
All right. So what are your thoughts about character switching?
Yes, character switching, if there is any. So I personally would prefer them implementing character switching while in battle. And then there are different approaches. We also talked about this just by chance on our CCO Discord, because they didn't know that we are going to record this topic here. So it was a pretty nice preparation for myself to talk about things with them, and now here. So now I have a little bit more perspectives in mind. One is free switching, like you just go into the tactical menu, select switch or change or whatever, and then you get the list of all the party members that are passively waiting outside somewhere. Well, not really, you don't see them, they're just outside, like in Final Fantasy X. They are not on the battlefield, but available. Then you select, and they just switch out, done. And during the switching, the battle freezes, like when you switch between active party members with up and down. During the camera movement, the battle freezes as well. This should work the same, just with one character running away and the other running in. That's free switching. It just works. And the only thing that is beneficial then is if the one you're switching out has less HP than the one that you're switching in, that you're kind of saving that character from KOing or something like that, and it kind of increases your HP pool as well. So the balancing has to adapt for that. But when one character is down, KO'd, no more switching. Only when the active character is alive or just up and being able to do something, then switching is available. Because otherwise it would be too cheap to just switch out a downed party member for somebody that's full health. That is too cheap. Then for a second possibility, you could maybe use like a tag team switch as an ability. Like there's maybe 2 new entries, like just switch or tag team, or whatever they're called, like on the main tactical menu.
Mm-hmm.
Switch is just the free switching I just explained, and the other one is a tag team, which uses up ATB, maybe 1 or 2, depends on the balancing. But then the one that's being switched in has a unique attack that instantly does something like attack an enemy or buff the party or something like that. It's just each party member has this special tag in ability that gets unleashed. That's because it uses an ATB. This could also work. Maybe just free switching or an ATB switch or both. I can see all 3 versions happening. But somebody on our Discord also posts the possibility that there's not really a switch per se, but there's a tag team attack that each party member is able to tag up or team up with one passive party member, and then they unleash a tag team attack, like just a one attack with both, kind of like synergy, but not really synergy, but just those 2 attack. But the passive party member then leaves again. So you're not really able to switch out. You have to commit to those 3 you've chosen, but you're able to use the others, the passive ones, to unleash certain double attacks or tag team attacks. Kind of like in certain fighting games, I've been told. I only know this a little bit from, I think Tekken Tag Team is the game was called, from PS2, I think. Or was it PS3? PS2. I played this for a little bit, and there are also, you choose 2, and I think, can you even switch, or is it only tag team attacks? I don't remember. It's been so much further into the past, I don't remember.
I forget too, but I do remember playing games with my friends, like older games that did kind of have this. I think it was Street Fighter, wasn't it? Or
could also be
similar to Mortal Kombat, maybe. I don't know. I think they just pressed like R2 and then, or whatever the button is on the controller at the time. But it is. I think you did switch. I think they tagged in, and then you could control, like, your friend that you're playing 2 players would jump in and start like attacking, and then you could go back.
You got to play with 4 players, 2 against 2, right? At least in this in the Tekken game, I think it was also possible. Yeah, but again, I'm no fighting game player. I've played a few in my youth, but then after some point, not anymore. So I can't really talk about this from a competence perspective. So I'll just leave it at that. But it's also an idea that could work, so that you need to commit, which is also how the original handled it. You could change characters at save points and on the overworld, but in battles, no go. You have to commit to those you've chosen. Also for cutscenes. And speaking of cutscenes, I added an addendum while talking to the others earlier today on Discord, because I think this also, it's not really about character switching, but it's connected in a way that what happens to the characters that are, let's say, there's free switching, which means that all the other passive characters need to be around. But when you're on the field running around, because there's no separate screen for the battle, you're only around with 3 characters. Running around with like 8 or 9 characters at some point is just too much. So this doesn't really make any sense. So I think there should always only be 3 characters running around, the one you're controlling and the other 2 that follow you, and also in battle. But when you're not in battle, like on the fields, maybe always also in town, because there's not really an overworld. I'm pretty sure there won't be an overworld, more like huge zones. I'm still in this camp. Then I'm pretty sure we should be able to switch at any point, also in battle. So that means you run around with 3 characters, you open menu, select BHS, and then switch characters, you exit the menu, and the new team is then visible. The others are just not there. They're maybe nearby, just out of view, but they're around. And then you're in battle, you switch out, and they're just running from out of nowhere, basically, and the other one runs out as well. And then you have... and you can basically just PHS switch during battle as well. That's what I'm saying. It's just, no matter where you are, you can switch. You're basically free to fight with any party setup or makeup you want. And if one of your characters has fire spell equipped and you fight against enemies that are weak to fire, and the ones you have in your party don't right now, so you can just switch out and then use fire or something like that. Or you're just a little bit more flexible. And also when one of your characters, as I said before, has low health, you can switch it out and get them out of harm's way. It kind of extends your lifespan in battle a little bit, but then again, balance needs to account for that. But there's another possibility that you run around with 3, the others are not visible, but you can switch in the field. But in battle you can't, because then one character just needs to like check out a little bit, call the others, and with the PHS, with the phone, and then one of them needs to run towards the battlefield. This would just take too long if you want it more realistic, to be presented more realistically.
Yeah.
So I could also see that switching during battles is a no-go. But after battle, if you notice, oh, okay, I need this character, or I need to switch gears, or especially materia a little bit around to accommodate for this enemy setup, then you can just switch materia, gear, or characters after the battle. I don't think it's too much of a problem, because it worked. It worked too here in part 1. If you weren't prepared for the upcoming boss, then you just weren't. You could either just power through, reload a previous save, and then re-equip and try again. It's kind of the same here. So I don't think it needs free switching or ATB switching. I just think it would make it a little bit more interesting. And then they can also balance the enemies and the characters more around individualism, which means that each character is even more individual in the way they play, and maybe some characters are more efficient against certain enemies. So when you can switch within battle, kind of like Final Fantasy X, Tidus was good against nimble enemies, Walker was good against flying enemies, Lulu was good against enemies that were prone to elemental magic and stuff like that. So you switched those in that were good against those enemies, and the enemy groups constantly changed. So it made sense to switch characters around in each battle to use the correct character against an enemy, that's so that you can use their weakness and deal the best amount of damage that there is, or even hit the enemy in terms of flying enemies, for example. So if they go this route and make certain characters more efficient towards certain enemy types, then this could work, or it should even be encouraged, free switching. On the other hand, if they just keep going with the makeup or the concept that part 1 went with, I think it's not that much needed switching. But I think outside of battle, switching should be there all the time. You only see 3 characters, because otherwise it would get crowded and maybe weird. And then when they talk about stuff, when you run around, all of them talk or needs to have something to say, and it maybe just becomes too much. And there's also replayability when you play through a certain segment with other characters. They have other comments and stuff like that. However, I think it doesn't really matter how exactly they implement this, but for cutscenes, story cutscenes, all of them need to be present, in my opinion. If it's more than just a few comments that don't really mean much. But for real cutscenes that are story relevant, the whole part needs to be present. And so that they don't just pop in or need to catch up or something, when you reach that point and the cutscene starts with clever camera work, maybe if they can add a transition of sorts, then they can make sure that the others are just there without appearing out of nowhere. I think this could also work. Or maybe they're just there, like you run through the marsh, and then you approach the Midgar Solemn on the spike. Those which are not in your party are already visible. They're standing there, and as soon as they are visible, then you can't switch anymore, because then you're in the area of a cutscene, for example. I could see this also work. And then when the cutscene is done, those who are not in the party just stay there, and you run away. And as soon as they're not visible anymore, they despawn, or they run ahead until they're not seen anymore, and then despawn, and there you're by yourself again in the trio. I hope I was able to convey this idea in a way that everyone could understand, because sometimes I have everything in my mind. I know how to explain in my head, but when I explain it, maybe it's a little bit confusing. So I hope I was able to explain it properly.
I have some things to add. So I think we kind of already saw the party switching in part 1, where there was actual parts of the story that required us to play with just Aerith and Tifa by themselves. And that was in Shinra HQ, where they had to call each other on the phone, and then it would fade to black, and then you would control Cloud, and then you would go back. So it's something seeing something like that, where we're using the PHS, and then it fades to black, and when it comes back up, you have those new people in your party, and there's 3. Like you said, you're traversing with 3 people controlling Cloud, and then the other 2. It does make sense to have the other passive party members in the town if you're going into a town or city and they're doing their own thing.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're just there and you run past them and they're just talking to an NPC themselves, or they're doing something else. Even maybe they have their own quests that you have to go and talk to them to go and do certain things. Maybe they need help with something. I'm not sure about that.
Maybe, yeah.
But I was just thinking towards like Johnny. I know he wasn't a playable character, but he runs up to you. He lost his wallet. Then you have to go and do all of that kind of stuff. Maybe you would see them like running, and then you talk to them and passing, and they're like, oh, somebody needs help over here. Come over here, or something like that. And then in order to do it, it does fade to black, and then they're in your party. It's like you have to use them to get to finish that quest. It's a side quest or something like that.
Yes, I can see that, yeah. And also, if you remember Costa del Sol, it was exactly the same there. The ones that were in your party were with you. The others were just spread around town, and you could interact with them separately.
Yeah.
And sometimes even listen to them talk to somebody, because I think Tifa found Johnny, and they talked a little bit in one of the mentions, I think, if I remember correctly. And Aerith was in the inn. You could talk to her and even choose an answer that affected the affection system. You could find Barrett in one of the bathrooms, looking at himself, marveling at his marshmallow outfit. It was pretty funny. Yuffie was running the material store, of course. Just stuff like that. This is really cool. But this is also something I talked to the others about earlier today, and I'm glad that you had the same idea with them doing their own thing in town, because this means that more than just us 3 on the CCO Discord channel thought about it. And I think this is really vital that they add this. But what I'm asking myself is, are those in your party, even in town, always with you? Or as soon as you go into town, everybody does their own thing, and you're always only alone with Cloud and do your thing, as long as there's not something pressing to do, like you enter Calm, and then the thing is, okay, let's go to the inn. Then of course, then the other ones just go to the inn, because that's where you need to go. Maybe all of them go into the inn, and then Cloud can roam around town alone if he wants, or just join the others in the inn. But afterwards, when you leave the inn after the flashback, they just roam around town, do their thing, and only when you leave, then they catch up or something like that. Or at least those two you have in your party catch up, or you have then to form your party when you leave the town. Because in my mind, when you enter a town and all of them spread out, then you can talk to all of them. You can, in one playthrough, experience all their little stories or dialogues or whatever they have, whatever they do, learn more about them, and not just those that are not in your party. Of course, you can just leave town, change party, you can enter again, but that's unnatural to play this way. It's only for completionists like myself who would probably do this. And if I remember correctly, Star Ocean 2 did that. When you enter a town, you were, I think, always alone, and then you could just find the others, chat them up, and do things. And
that makes sense.
I think this could also work, but who knows? Maybe they really focus on a 3-party system, and the others are just within reach, but not seen, not visible around. And in towns, they do their own thing. But those that are with you, and you hear their banter. You miss out on banter from those not in your party. But in towns, you miss out on banter or with more, let's say, maybe not just conversations, but maybe things they do, or maybe Aerith goes to find some beautiful necklace or flowers or what have you, just something that elevates her character, that you see, oh, what's she interested in, what's she doing? Maybe she goes help the kids or something, that just fleshes out certain characters, and you will miss out on those characters that are in your party. So it kind of balances it out a little bit, depending on whether you're on field or in town. This could also work, but the completionist I want to experience everything. So yeah, maybe they won't be able to satisfy me 100%, but this is impossible anyway. So I just hope Square Enix does it as well as they can to the best of their abilities, and that we grow closer to the characters. Maybe even with tents, not just use a tent as an item, but maybe that there are tent or camping spots all around the place, like in Final Fantasy 15. But you're able to just set up camp by using an item, and then you're there. All characters are there. You control Cloud, and you can talk to all of them.
Exactly.
Maybe depending on where they are in the story, they say different things. Maybe they tell you what you need to do next in case if you forgot, or maybe while Aerith is gone after Temple of the Ancients, they're all extremely worried. Maybe someone could drop some foreshadowing, just stuff like that. That there you are in control of talking to characters in town or in this camping site. Because in Final Fantasy 15, it was all automated, I think. You saw the animation where they set it up, and you could cook, and you were able to spar with Gladio and stuff, but there were not really much. You couldn't manually talk to them. That's something that felt missing. And here I need to shout out Breath of Fire 3, because that game did exactly that. On the overworld, you could set up camp anywhere, and then you were on a separate map. All the characters in your party were there. You could talk to everybody. They gave you directions, said something about the plot that was going on right now, stuff like that. And you could also save there. And this would be a really, really good opportunity to extend like the camaraderie, their journey, what they think. Also, a breather. You can save there. Maybe you can save on. Well, you probably would be able to save anywhere, so this wouldn't be restricted to just camping. But just a campsite, you settle down. Maybe it's night then. You have a little campfire. They sit around. Maybe two are chatting to each other. Like this, the NPC chatter will also be there, I hope, if they implement something like this. So we can just walk past certain characters talking like that, but you can also actively talk to them. I'd love that, but this is probably too optimistic to expect them actually implementing a camping system.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it, but I would love to see it.
I think that we're going to see a focus on a 3-party system, and I think that we're going to be forced to play with specific characters in a 3 person party for certain parts of the story. So I think, like you said, if we leave the town and we're going to go to like the Midgar Zolom or whatever, it'll show a cut scene of us splitting up or something. And they're like, all right, so we'll meet you guys there or something. Are you ready to go? And then we go and it's me, Tifa, and I don't know, Barrett or something. And then when you get there, the other 3 are already there. And then there's a cut scene. And then you fight with the 3 active party members that you currently had. And then you can switch in battle. Or maybe you can't switch in battle. The thing is with me, that was super annoying with part 1 and intermission, or not intermission, sorry, but part 1 was that, especially like I already told you this before, with a multi-phase battle, okay, if you lose, you have to restart, and the restarting language was very hard to understand for me. So for example, when I was doing that last battle with Sephiroth, yes, I could hold and press triangle to switch my loadout or whatever, right? But there was no way for me to save it, like, so that I continuously had to redo my loadout if I lost to Sephiroth over and over really again, annoying. Which was super annoying.
Yes.
The party switching would help this. So if I'm in an active battle and I have access to my other party members, I don't need to worry about accidentally not redoing my loadout. Or I mean, I do, because technically you're in a battle and you can't change materia in the middle of a battle, but at least I can swap to a different character to help mitigate that. So if they're not going to have that switching actively in the battle, then they need to give me a way to not have to restart my save data. Like, that's so absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to have to reload my save data to go back from a certain point. I don't want to do that.
Exactly.
And it's just very annoying. So I think that's a way to mitigate that issue. Or give us a warning beforehand, or I don't know. But that was one of the, and I couldn't save in the middle of that battle. So when I reloaded my save file, I was in phase 3 of the Sephiroth battle. I had to leave my console on or put it in sleep, whatever, and then leave and come back to it later. And then I forgot what I was doing. And I mean, if I had to leave, I would have to close out of the game, or it was just, this was my hard mode playthrough that I'm talking about, because it was harder. So I kept losing, and then it was just annoying to me. And I think that I don't want that. Like, I would rather it having like an active party member swapping in battle, like Final Fantasy X. I would rather have that, I think.
Yes, I agree. I hope I don't remember wrongly, but there were 3. When you lose a battle, there are 3 options. One is return to title, of course. Then you just reload. And one is reload last checkpoint, and then is redo battle. I don't remember the exact word.
It's restart the battle, but it's not. It doesn't say restart the. Like, I wanted to know, am I going to restart it from this specific phase? Or is it just some random checkpoint that it's like a checkpoint that's saved? Or is it from the beginning of the battle? Obviously, it said restart battle. So it's like, okay, so which battle?
Yeah, restart battle restarts the active battle. So in case of Sephiroth, it would start with the Sephiroth battle.
But restart battle restarts from the Whispers. It's not Sephiroth.
Wasn't that start from checkpoint? I think there was continue from checkpoint or something. It was the second.
I thought restart from battle, if I died during Sephiroth, was restart from the Sephiroth portion of the battle. But it's not. It's restart from the Whispers. So I had to redo all the Whispers again.
Yeah, the Whisper Harbinger. But one option does restart the Sephiroth fight only, because I did that. However, it restarts, and
it's the beginning of the Sephiroth fight, though. It's not from that specific phase.
It's the beginning, which is fair, which is okay for me. But what annoyed me is that after restarting, I had to restart, or I lost, because Aerith and Tifa, I think, or just Aerith, wasn't equipped at all. That's a mistake I made. However,
exactly.
Then I restarted the battle. Sephiroth was okay. Then I entered the menu during the cutscene, equipped everything, and then died later on because I was a dum-dum. And then restarted Sephiroth battle again and thought, okay, now it's done. I don't need to enter the menu again. And then Aerith also had no materia again, because it didn't save the my loadout.
So you have to hold triangle again
Yeah.
during that beginning of the
You have to set up your stuff every time, and this is really annoying. That's the most annoying thing.
Yeah. So I think that would be a way to mitigate that, is just do the party switching. But even then, if you're going into a battle, you want to make sure. So I do like hold triangle, but just be clear at what phase in the battle, especially like the last battle of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing, I guess, and then I was mad. But anyways.
I personally think that restart battle should retain your current equipment status or state.
Yeah.
And not reset it to the checkpoint before the battle starts.
Yeah.
But if you want to completely redo everything, then you can naturally start from last checkpoint. But in chapter 18, this would be on the highway. So yeah, but at least you would be able to buy stuff, buy items and things. If you're not on hard mode, that is, because in hard mode you can't use items.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that if you can also switch freely within a battle, then it's even less annoying, because if you forgot to equip one of them because you just switched, then you can at least switch back in the battle and then re-equip the character outside of battle again, and then it's good.
Yeah.
You're not screwed if you're going into a battle while not equipped. On the other hand, when a party is force split, like like in the drum, where there were always forced parties, 2 or 3, then it's of course not possible to freely switch because the others are just not available.
They're not there.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the Remake Part 2, 3, 4, whatever, will have certain segments where you will actively split up and you don't have access to the others, even through PHS, not maybe. Or only at certain points, because it's maybe a certain cave where you need to split up to get through it or something like that. I don't know. Or just some puzzle in Temple of the Ancients, for example. For the puzzle to work, you need to release a mechanism from 2 sides or something like that. It's kind of like in the last dungeon, Final Fantasy VIII. I think you also had to split up your group, and then could switch between the groups and do things. And some riddles actually needed to be done this way, where you needed both groups separately, and stuff like that could work, but not always.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we'll probably see a combination of all of these things.
Yeah, probably.
Just going back to the character switching during combat, I just said that I do like in Persona 5, they had a baton pass where you would give up your turn and then you move on to the next person. I know it's turn-based battle system, but then the next person's attack is charged up because you skipped up. So it's like if you tag somebody, maybe they just like tag each other, like do a high five, and then the next person that goes in has like a limited time where they're buffed or something like that in some way to help encourage character switching.
Yeah.
And I did like your additional tag team up attack. Probably it's a separate attack, so you can actually choose to use ATB to do an attack with one of the characters that are currently benched or whatever.
Yeah.
They come in, you do an attack together, and then they jump out of battle. But then there has to be some kind of cooldown system. So maybe there's like a bar where it's like going down. So, but then also you can't actively switch to them either. So it's like you have to decide. It's more strategy. So you just did a tag team attack with that character. There's a cooldown. You can't swap that character into battle because they just did this big charge up attack and now they're waiting or something. Like you can't. So like, you know, you take in Yuffie and you put Cloud out or whatever, then you did a huge attack, and then Cloud, you can't get him back in because there's a cooldown. So you can swap to Aerith though, because Aerith isn't currently there, but you can't choose Cloud until later. So it's like another layer of strategy. Like you just can't abuse these extra
that's true. I didn't think that far, but that's a good point. So that there are basically two cooldowns. One is for a switched out character that is currently passively outside of battle. It maybe takes, let's say, a minute or something cooldown until they can get in again.
Yeah.
But when that's for switching, free switching with ATB, it doesn't matter. But when you're using the tag team attack by consuming an ATB, then the tag team attack feature won't be available for, let's say, 30 seconds or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I also said maybe there's a weapon bonus that says like combo attack or benched with the bench characters or whatever you just called it, like a team up attack or a tag team attack has a chance to cost 0 ATB, or that has a chance to have 0 cooldown, so that it's like a bonus, like a weapon ability or something like that to give you the chance
weapon
of like
skill, yeah.
where it doesn't cost it, but it's randomized. So I don't know, it's not as punishing.
Yeah, I also like the idea of when you're switching out, that either the one that's tagging out grants the one tagging in a short buff or a heal or something. And this could also be a weapon skill that you could unlock, like grant the tagged in character this buff. Or when you're tagging somebody in by a tag team attack, the one that comes in itself grants itself a buff after the attack. And this would then be on the tagged in character's weapon skill, something like that. Sounds maybe a little bit confusing, but something like that I could see, because then they can really embrace this switch in, switch out, and it's not just switch, but it encourages you doing that. And let's say if you need a certain buff for a short time, or if you say, okay, if Aerith tags out and somebody else gets in, that one gets a heal, like 20% of max HP or something like that.
Exactly.
So, which means Cloud is on low HP, gets tagged out, Aerith is in, you fight a little bit, wait until Cloud's cooldown is down, then you switch Cloud in again, but then he gets a little bit of a heal, a free heal from Aerith. So that's stuff like that could also work, especially in hard mode when every single thing matters, and you can't abuse MP, and items aren't there anyway. So every free heal is, or every buff, be it protect or mana wall or whatever, is very welcome.
And I'm thinking they could also have kind of like an affinity system, so the characters have more of a bonus, whoever you tag in with the person. So for example, if it's Yuffie and Tifa, one's a samurai, one's a karate master, so they have more of a bonus attack, because if you tag them in with each other or use that attack together, then it works better, as opposed to tagging like
Barrett
Cloud with Yuffie or
Cloud with Yuffie.
Yeah, and then it would be like I don't know, Cloud and Sid, actually, because they are both like wielding like one's a sword and one's a dragoon, so you have a lance or like a spear or whatever.
So basically, you mean that the buff, that the buff is dependent on which two characters are tagging each other. It's not just when Cloud goes out, it's always this buff, or like, let's say the Berserker buff on the one that's tagged in, but it depends on which one it is. Like Cloud and Sid share a specific buff, no matter which one calls which one. And Aerith and Yuffie have one, Tifa have one, Barrett and Tifa, stuff like that. Or Barrett and Red, besties, something like that. This could also work, that it's not just the character that tags out that decides what the other one gets, but the combination is the deciding factor, which buff the tagged in person gets. Endless possibilities.
Or it's Cloud's affinity with the characters, so if he talks to them more, then they have like a friend.
That. Yes.
Amount, like a friend number, where it's like they like him more, so then maybe they do extra damage from him doing their side quests, or talking to them outside of battle and that sort of stuff. Maybe like kind of how they had the dating mechanic.
Yeah.
But it's
or it's a separate battle affinity points in the system, that if Cloud heals Aerith, that the affinity between those goes up a little bit. And the higher the affinity, the longer the buff goes for. Maybe. Something like that. Or maybe there's a stronger version of the buff when they tag each other out. I like that. We're on fire today. Seriously. Both nice ideas.
So the last thing I said was just I think it'll be kind of like in battle, like at the end of Remake, how we just had them jump in. There's a cutscene. We didn't choose the party change. It was just like all of a sudden Tifa would jump down and help
Oh,
you in
right.
battle with Cloud. Just kind of like how it's a cutscene, you know what I mean? So for party switching like that, where they jump down and maybe say something witty to each other, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, why not?
And then they jump out of battle or something. So they kind of already had that mechanic during the last battle with Sephiroth, where it was segmented. So I just see it being like that, but smoother and not taking as long, basically.
Oh,
with
for sure,
something
yeah.
Similar to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next part we're talking about here is the OG limit breaks, what will remain and what will become abilities.
Yeah, that's also an interesting question, especially since many abilities, as we talked towards the beginning of this podcast episode, that certain abilities weren't just flashy enough for a limit break, so they were relegated to or downgraded to abilities, like Braver, for example, or in case of Yuffie, even to just a hold square attack.
Yeah.
Just let me quickly check how is this called, because this is going to bug me, because Landscraper, right? It was Landscraper. This limit break was turned into the hold square button when she was in long range mode. I can see limit breaks not only being turned into abilities, but also hold circle attacks, or maybe even triangle attacks of sorts. Maybe this. I have got, I think, one or two ideas further down for triangles. But let's see. We haven't had all limit breaks covered, of course, in part 1. So Meteor Rain and Omnislash are still outstanding. Well, in both meanings, they are really outstanding limit breaks. I love both, but they're still not there yet.
Yeah.
So Omnislash should be held off for the final part towards the end, maybe even story related, as his last story quest or something like that. Or yeah, pretty sure this will be this huge big thing. But Meteor Rain, I'm pretty sure this should stay a limit break, because this is just too awesome to just be downgraded to an ability. And an ability is probably also too. Although Anger Max was also quite strong, but on the other hand, it's not as flashy as Meteor Rain. So let's hope it remains a limit break. For finishing touch, I have thought about it, and I'm not quite sure if it should be a limit, because limits are much rarer in Remake, because the limit bar starts empty for each battle. So it really is an ordeal almost to, well, not in all battles, but in most battles, to even get to one.
Yeah.
And finishing touch doesn't remove bosses or probably big enemies either. I saw somebody use finishing touch on the dragon in Nibelheim on Mount Nibel, and it only took damage. It wasn't removed from battle because it was too big. And small enemies, you probably won't be able to use this limit break on small enemies anyway. So it's left for big enemies, which won't get swept away, but only damaged. So I'm not sure if this would even make it into Remake at all, unless it is an ability of sorts.
Yeah.
But that's too strong. If it's an ability, even if it's 2 bars, just sweeps out all the enemies, gone. This is just over the top. So maybe it's just a wind-based, or maybe not even elemental, just something that swirls enemies around, maybe draws them together, kind of like gravity, a gravity-based attack, like
I like that.
This black hole ability from the Mysterious Whisper, and the Enigmatic Whisper, Sephiroth, or even the Rust Drake, which had this annoying gravity attack with those gravity balls around.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and this it's basically
the one that Tifa has.
Oh, right, yeah, Chi Trap. Does the same as I think too, but only has a small reach.
Yeah, but it could be something similar to that, but it's an ability.
Yeah, but finishing touch is much bigger. It's basically a tornado, but it could work that it doesn't shoot a tornado basically, but creates a tornado on himself, where he is in the center, in the silent center,
Okay.
in the eye of the storm, basically. But then the enemies around him get swept around and close to him, and then he can use another AoE attack, or others can use bigger attacks, because then they're all there. Cloud sucked them towards him, so something like that, with damage. It would be a little bit another ability, and Finishing Touch wouldn't quite make sense, because Finishing Touch implies it's done afterwards. And that's why I think it's probably not gonna make it. And I wouldn't be mad, because even in the original, it's you can sweep away the small mobs, the annoying vermin, basically. And for bosses, it's just it does damage, or for big dudes. But Meteor Rain is especially when you're stronger, it makes much more damage in total.
Well, maybe he just twirls around and creates a tornado and then jumps out of it, and the tornado just randomly goes around the battlefield.
Maybe, yeah, but then it wouldn't be a Finishing Touch either if the enemies remain. That's my main contention, because Finishing Touch implies something that it is not. So that would be just a new ability. But it could be like a callback to Finishing Touch, similar
They might call it
animation.
else.
But call it something else, exactly, because it's not really a Finishing Touch. Could just be Tornado or something. Tornado Slash, I don't know.
Tornado Touch.
Or that, yeah. Maybe. Exactly.
Finishing Tornado.
Yeah. Finish him. So yeah, but Cloud doesn't have much left anyway, so it's not, we can't talk too much about it. But Barrett has a few more. I saw that he has a grenade bomb. That's something that could become or stay a limit break. He basically just throws a grenade, and it's attack on all, basically a big AoE attack. This could work for maybe the first one in part 2, first limit break, or the first level 2 limit break, because I still feel that it would make sense that we retain the first 2 limit breaks from part 1, but those will be level 1 limit breaks, and we can only choose between them. But then in part 2, we learn the first level 2 limit break, that is, or we can learn it during the first few hours or something, and then it explains, okay, you have level 1 limit breaks, the one from part 1, but now you can learn another one that is level 2, but you need to switch to level 2, and you only have that one. Basically, just like in the original game, when you have those different levels. But in this case, since there are different games, each level is one game, and then but still you can use the ones from previous games, but you have to choose which ones are available in the next battle. So I can see Grenade Bomb being the first one that we gain in part 2. Satellite Beam could be even the second one, or maybe used or held back for part 3, who knows. Because Satellite Beam is rather strong, and the multi-hit attack, it just rains down lasers on random targets, and I think it could be pretty strong, especially Remake tends to enhance those limit breaks, make them better. So, who knows. But the others, like Mind Blow and Hammer Blow, abilities, straight up. Mind Blow is just an MP attack, and Hammer Blow just shoots one enemy out of the battlefield. And for smaller enemies, maybe makes sense. Just kick him out, done. Maybe only if they're maybe halfway done with their HP, they're just out. Or maybe if when they're prone or pressured or something, or when they're staggered, you can just kick him out of battle. But it's a 2 ATB bar attack. Or if it's a boss or a bigger enemy, it just deals massive amount of damage. I don't know. It could work, but like Finishing Touch, it's maybe a little bit weird. But we'll see. Maybe they can make it work and make it still feel balanced. Yeah, and the thing is with Barrett, this something that surprised me a little. His ultimate limit break, level 4 limit break in OG, became his second limit break in part 1 already. So he already basically shot all his powder. So they need for later parts, especially part 4 or 3, just the last part, they need an extremely powerful ability or a limit break that surpasses Catastrophe, I feel. Otherwise, it would feel kind of anticlimactic, because Remake Part 1 had this huge attack, and from now on, it's only mediocre limit breaks. Hell no. So for that I think they will need to come up with a few new attacks. Satellite Beam is comparable, so that I feel Part 2 can make use of it, but Part 3, and if there's a Part 4, he needs new ones. What do you think?
Absolutely. I agree with you. I don't really have anything to add.
That's fine. I think basically this little segment, which is our last, shouldn't be too long anyway. It's just like,
yeah, that's okay. I'm just letting you read through them.
Yeah, that's fine.
You could just keep reading through them just to finish.
Yeah. For Tifa, this one, I think they have to rework a few limit breaks a little bit, because Meteor Strike and Meteor Drive both take the enemy and slam them down, upside down. And for some, it probably wouldn't work, or would look silly, especially against Diamond Weapon or something like that. However, I think Meteor Strike, let me just quickly check that I don't tell any lies. Meteor Strike, Meteor Strike is the one where she lunges high into the air with the enemy and then throws it down. And this should remain a limit break, because that one is very, very flashy and pretty strong. But the question still remains: what happens against the dragon in Nibelheim? It's too big for Tifa to grab unless they really want to make it look silly. So that's
true.
One thing in my mind that they may kick those out, because that they just don't work for all enemy sizes. It works in the original turn-based system, because it is a little bit silly and they all just reside on the on a singular spot. Yes, it looks silly when we see her turn Diamond Weapon around and slamming it on its face, but it's still rather a formulaic or an abstract battle system, abstractly presented, albeit more naturally than maybe Final Fantasy I on the NES, where it's basically just windows with a few graphics inside.
Yeah, exactly.
But in Remake, I don't think that flies. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they make it work in some capacity, or maybe if the enemy is too large, she just topples him. That the enemy just falls on its face. Maybe
makes sense.
Or for some reason, she's able to not throw or take the enemy with her into the air, but maybe hits the ground so hard that they fly. They're catapulted into the air. She jumps up and then just slams him down again. Something like that could work. At least for a limit break. But Meteor Dive, that's the one. It's basically what Root does to Cloud in part 1, where he picks him up and throws him backwards. I forget how it's called in English, this wrestling move. But this is something that could just be an ability. Just topple an enemy or throw him down, something like that. As well as Water Kick. Water Kick is pretty straightforward, just a kick that's maybe it's water-based, maybe it just produces a few bubbles. They could, of course, create a few more hits, that it's just not one kick but several kicks, like maybe some Chun-Li kicking and then one huge swipe, but still an ability, because I think it's on the level of Star Shower in terms of flashiness and
Right.
damage output and stuff. And naturally, Final Heaven, this needs to be a final limit break of one of the parts. I still hope that she gets her own quests in the final part. I think we talked about this in the previous episode, where she meets Sangan and then goes out to learn the Final Heaven. It's not just an item. Well, it is basically an item because all she learns, or most things she learns, is from Sangan's book and stuff she finds out herself and writes down in the book. So she should find this last limit break book too, but it should be a Sangan
Yeah, I like
side
that.
quest. Sangan side quest. I want more Sangan, not just
Same.
him being mentioned or seen in the flashback. I'm pretty sure he's still alive, so Tifa should be able to meet him at some point. That's why I think Final Heaven should be reserved for the final part of Remake. All right, Aerith. Again, her what was it? I think it was the second to last limit break that was already introduced in part 1. Planet's Protection.
Yeah.
Oh, Planet Protector. No, it's the first of level 3 limit. It's not quite the best or second best, but still that one's already done. So we still have Pulse of Life, which is fully restore HP, MP, and cure all negative status effects. It's just a complete heal, and it's the last normally acquirable limit break in the original, and this should remain a limit break. It's basically Healing Wind on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
And naturally, Great Gospel should be obtainable. Maybe where though? Maybe shortly before we go to the Temple of the Ancients. Maybe it's obtainable at the Gold Saucer, where the date happens. That she'll be able to use Great Gospel in the Temple of the Ancients. Afterwards, no more Aerith.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they change things around, of course. But that's all just headcanon and stuff. We really can't know for sure
right now.
Exactly. We've gone into it in the past. But in most of the times, I try to stay as close to the original as possible, because that's what I can use as a baseline, as a foundation. Everything else is just headcanon, wild speculation.
Yeah. But I think we absolutely need to get her last limit break before she dies, and to have the ability to use it.
Yes, of course. Not hidden or as well hidden as in the original game. Maybe a little bit, maybe optional, of course. But in the original game, if you didn't know where it was, and if you didn't grind out her limit breaks, which was pain, frankly, you wouldn't probably be able to ever get it.
Yeah.
So, please, Square Enix, let us have it. At least for the last location where we still are able to use her. And against Death Wall, or is it called Death Wall? No, Demon Wall. It's very, very convenient to have that one. It's basically an invulnerability parachute for maybe a minute or something.
Yeah.
So yeah. But the other ones that are still pending are Seal Evil and Fury Brands, and those are well suited for abilities. Seal Evil in the original was, I think, Stop and Silence.
Yeah.
And yeah, why not? It's strong, yes. But I think, did Stop even... I think part 1 didn't even have Stop. If I remember correctly. No, it had Stop, yes.
It does, but it's called something else.
Yeah. I remember now because you can
Isn't it
stop.
in the time
Yeah, it
materia?
is. It is. I just remember because you can stop staggered enemies and then pummel them to death before the stagger runs out. Because it also stops the stagger bar. Right. Yeah, I haven't played it in a while. You probably have noticed. But yeah, it's fine. Its Seal Evil is it's very strong. Would be a very strong ability, I admit. But maybe it's something that could fail, or maybe it's only silence and not stop.
It could be that she creates it on the floor or on the ground, and then if they
Oh,
move
right, like
into it, it will silence them, or it freezes them, like
freezes them in place.
stops them like a trap.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Like Arcane Ward or ATB Ward. Yeah, yeah.
But it's a trap, so they just get stopped for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's basically the same as Genoa Dreamweaver does. She also creates those traps on the bottom that slowly move towards the characters, and if they don't move, then it stops them for a while. And exactly the same could work for Aerith with this evil ward, for example. And then she casts it on one of the characters or herself, and then it stays there on the ground.
On the ground,
and
yeah. For
character can just run into, and then enemies that are not immune to stop and silence will get stopped and silenced.
Yeah.
Easy as that. Maybe it will disappear when the first enemy gets in. It's just a one-time use, because otherwise it's overpowered. But this could work, yeah. Good idea. And then Fury Brand, I can see just her limit break being distributed to the other two. So if her limit break bar is full, it will be completely consumed, and the other two will get half a limit break bar bonus. In the original, since there was a limit break, it filled up a limit bar of the others fully.
Yeah.
But when it's an ability, it would be overpowered to multiply, basically. So if her limit break is full, she could increase the limit breaks of the others completely to the max, and that's too much. So just split her current limit bar level in half and then distribute it to the other two.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, because then you can choose, do I want to use her limit break, or do I want to use the limit break of the others? And then you can use this ability. And if her limit break is only at 10%, it doesn't do much, so it doesn't make much sense to use it. But if her limit break is halfway full, or 75% or even 100% full, then it makes sense to use this ability. And this ability could maybe also use up 2 ATB bars. Or they choose to retain it as a limit break, and it does the same as in the original, which I wouldn't be mad about either. All right, now we start to get somewhere juicy, because the other ones didn't have any limit breaks so far, so we have more options to choose from. Red 13, I thought that Lunatic High would be too much or too strong for an ability, because it creates, I think it's a buff only, hastes all party members, and increases defense by 50% for as his own defense for every party member still alive. So basically 100% defense increase when both are still alive. So it's very, very strong. So I'm pretty sure this should be a limit break and not just an ability, because it's an ability that can cause haste on all and increase defense and stuff. No, just that's overpowered. Earth Wave as well, because that's a multi-target attack. It just keeps attacking random enemies. Basically similar like Yuffie's attack, Bloodfest in Intermission, or Cloud's Ascension, or Tifa also, who keeps pummeling the enemy. But it's only one enemy though. For Red, it would be just multiple enemies, just randomly attack them. And this should retain a limit break, maybe more attacks, maybe one last AoE attack to make it a little bit stronger and more worthwhile. And naturally, Cosmo Memory. I don't need to list level 4 limit breaks anymore, because those need to stay limit breaks and be expanded upon. But other than that, we have Sled Fang and Blood Fang. Could be abilities. Maybe Blood Fang is redundant because it's basically the same, just heals red HP. So, I don't know. Doesn't really do much. Or no, it's HP and MP. My bad. Well, maybe it could make sense that it's his starting ability is Sled Fang, and then at some point he gains a weapon with the Blood Fang ability, which is just better, or not. It's not better. It causes or deals less damage, but it heals and absorbs MP and HP. Maybe that's
what
the trade-off.
I was gonna say. It absorbs it.
Yeah,
but it's a certain percentage.
Yeah, exactly. But also less damage because otherwise it would be just an upgraded Sled Fang.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, makes sense. And also Howling Moon because that one's not too bad. It adds haste and berserk to Red 13 and boosts his attack. So it could, for one, be a 2-bar ability. And maybe haste and berserk don't last for long. Maybe only for, let's say, 10-15 seconds.
Yeah.
Something like that. And the increased attack as well. So you can use it and then immediately follow with more attacks or a limit break or just something that has high damage output so you get even more damage in. Or use it just before you stagger the enemy and then he has a much higher damage output with that. And also, the ATB bars are filled faster so he can attack again before haste and berserk run out in those 10 seconds. Something like that. On the other hand, Lunatic High could work kind of the same, that haste status is only on all of them for like 10 seconds or something, like a short boost, and his defense as well. But I think it makes sense that he is also a buffer, a character that buffs people and not just attacking people, attacking enemies. So his limit break could also alternate between buffs and attacks. So I think Lunatic High should be a limit break still, in my opinion. Okay, Yuffie. Her Bloodfest was already, or Bloodbath. Not Bloodfest was the original, Bloodbath is the new one. Was already used up. And as we talked before, Landscraper was turned into a hold square attack. Then we still have the other ones, like Greased Lightning. Easy ability. It's basically the same as Braver. It's just an attack, ability attack, and then we're good. Gauntlet could also be one. Gauntlet is basically just an AoE attack. So I think she could just charge the enemy or jump up and then jump into the ground and create this explosion or whatever to attack the enemies around her. I think this is not too overpowered for an ability, but the other ones should become limit breaks or stay limit breaks, like Clear Tranquil. This would replace Aerith's Healing Wind. Doom of the Living is just attack relentlessly. And All Creation, yeah, no comment needed. Definitely not. All right, Catchy. Now this one is something that could be very interesting. Slots, I really want the slots to persist. However, they should be a little bit different, not just slots that the battle pauses and you have to hit the right slots and then it does something. I think it should start up the slots, but the battle keeps going. And then the slots just either you can control the slots if you want, or they just halt randomly on their own, like 3 or 4 times. And each time they halt, they naturally have a certain pattern, maybe a 3 of a kind or something like that. And depending on what it is, an effect takes place, just like in the original game, but multiple times. And the chance that it's something strong increases each time, whether it's good or bad. But the chance that it's something good is higher, just like we talked about before with the taunt ability or something else that you mentioned, that it could be anything. Like he pulls out, the Moogle pulls out a box and throws it, and anything can come out. It's basically the same principle, but with slots, and you see it. Kind of like the DMW in Crisis Core, which just keeps going. But here only for a certain amount of times. And for the dice, I think this could easily be an ability. Just dice, and it should even be just a 1 ATB ability, because it most of the time probably doesn't do much damage, but you can use it again and again. It's just fixed damage, and fixed damage is also a damage type in Remake. And some enemies are immune against fixed damage, so dice wouldn't do anything against those. But if you get lucky, you get a lot of damage in. And his weapon abilities, his weapon skills, or when you upgrade his weapons, some weapons could upgrade his dice ability, so that you don't throw 3 dice, maybe 4 or 6, or something else upgrades the dice, or maybe it's hard to say, or maybe there are other abilities that will increase the dice count. Maybe you need to use other abilities first, like Yuffie's, how it's called again? This huge explosion ability that the more abilities you use, the more it charges up, and when it's fully charged up, it's really strong. I forgot how it's called. But something like that you charge up the dice attack, and then when you use it, it's down to 1 again, for example.
Yeah, I like that.
So if you spam dice, it doesn't do much. It's just 100 to 600 damage, or however they want to calculate it. But when you use other abilities, or maybe even taunt, or throw the box or something, then it keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, up to 6 dice, and then you throw it, and if you're lucky, then you deal a high amount of damage. Maybe not just times 100, maybe times 200 or 400. It depends on the balancing. Because in the original, it was just the die phase times 100. I think the 3600 was the maximum. Pretty sure. And also depended on what did it depend? On Ketchi's level, or the limit level? No. I forget what it depended on, but I think the first time I used it, he only threw 2 dice, but some factor increased the dice count. But I forget what it is.
Yeah, maybe he turns into a slot machine, and Cait like pulls the lever.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe he pulls a slot machine out from his stomach and slams it on the ground, and then he pulls it, and then it zooms in, and then the slots go, and then you get that bonus. Or maybe it turns into something, like I said, like a ball or a bomb or an enemy thing, or
it's
a buff, something. Or the dice, it's not dice anymore. It's like
or dice which doesn't have faces or dots, but it has images, and depending on what it is, it does different things.
Honestly, this the battleground is gonna be complete insanity.
Yeah, with Ketchi on the battleground.
It's just gonna be in complete insanity, bonkers. What is even happening?
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna be so much flashing and like particle effects and things exploding. Like, nobody's gonna know what the hell is going on. I mean, you will know, but also, let's just talk about how are they gonna balance that, and also like all the bugs that can result from like all of his stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't use him too much when I played. Because I just didn't understand as a kid, like, what any of it. I did understand what it meant, but it was just like I had to spend time figuring out, like, you know what I mean? That I was just not. I didn't gravitate towards him like as a character when I played as a party member.
Yeah, same. I I put him into my team to level him up, of course, because I want to keep
Same.
everyone on the same level, basically.
Yeah.
But I hated him at some point because I think you know the story. I grinded for 2 or 3 hours, had him
Yeah.
in my party, used slots,
Yeah.
and then the insta death happened.
Oh my
Nice.
god, yeah, I know. Yeah.
2 or 3 hours of grinding gone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cait.
Yeah.
Seriously. But yeah, while we're talking, I just had time to look up dice, and it's level based. So
Okay.
each 10 levels, he gains 1 more die, and above level 60, there's no more. So it's a maximum of 6, and it's the total number of die, and each duplicate. So if he has like 2 doubles, like 2 6s, 2 4s, and a 5, that I think there's a factor of 3 factor of 3 because he has 2 doubles. And if he had 3 times, it would also be times 3. Or if all were the same, it was like times 5 or 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just 3,600, but in that case, it would break the damage limit if it were possible.
I just watched a video before this episode of him, like, I think he attacked his own party members and then they were incapacitated and he drank like a hero drink, like 5 hero drinks, and then did something and it was like hit the damage cap. And I'm like, what is the strategy?
Oh,
I'm like, what is happening?
yes, with certain characters, I think it's Cloud and Barrett, if I'm not mistaken. No, Cloud. Or is Cloud too? I know it's possible with Barrett and Vincent, where it can. It's not the break the damage cap. It's actually break the calculation behind. The formula.
It was something crazy.
Yeah, the thing is, the damage can also only go so high because the number that contains the damage has an upper limit, and if you exceed this upper limit, it will go into the negative. It kind of turns around. It's because it can't go any higher. It swaps around and
heals them.
it wraps around and goes into the negative. And since this is invalid for damage, it just kills him outright. It's just an insta kill. And the damage number that pops up is just some random garbled gobbledygoops, weird bitmaps. I don't know what it is.
Oh my god.
And it works on Barrett because his damage output for a missing score, his ultimate weapon, is based on the total AP gained on the materia. And if you have 8 fully maxed out Knights of the Round, maybe even less, because Knights of the Round has possibly the highest AP number, and then it's just with a few hero drinks, you break this limit and you insta kill everything, even diamond weapon and emerald weapon and stuff. The same with Vincent's weapon, because his death penalty is based on the number of times you fled the battle. So you have to flee, I think, what was it? 32,000 times or something like that. And then, you break it. Insta-kill everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just going to be mental, but they're going to fix all that for this game. Like, there's no way it's going to be ridiculous. It will be ridiculous, but it's not going to be, like, breakable like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be, but I feel like it's going to be optimized and actually, like...
Yeah, and even from a program perspective, back then they had to be wary of all the numbers and the RAM that was used, the memory. So each number that they used for stuff that was happening had to be as small as possible so that they didn't clog up the memory. But nowadays, for just number stuff and calculating stuff, they can usually just use the highest possible number, which is, I don't know, billions or trillions of whatever. It can hold a lot of numbers, or a really, really high number, not just 2.1 million or something like that. Like really, really high numbers, which you never will achieve. So that shouldn't be a problem at all. if there's a problem, it's just a bug in the algorithm or in the calculation somewhere. But not to the extent that the original was with its small numbers. Or small number cap, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Catchy, I'm pretty sure they will think of more, because if there are 4 parts, he will be in 3 parts, and he needs at least 1 limit break for each part. So we need more. And
I gave you a good one.
yes, you did.
Self-destruct.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can also see another one. There's one outcome from the slots where he grows so big, absorbs the other party members and grows really big and has a lot of HP and stuff. This could be its own limit break. That's the other party members just go into Catchy and he grows really big, and it's this huge.
And then he explodes and then they all die.
No, it doesn't. Explosion would be another one, but
kills his own party.
No, it wouldn't be exploding, of course, because that would be detrimental. Yeah, but it would just be this huge thing, and
like Fat Chocobo.
Yes, basically, and then he could roll around and do stuff.
Oh my god! And you hear the other party members inside, like,
yeah.
Oh, get off my arm! Ow! Oh my god!
Oh boy!
So basically, he's Kirby. He becomes Kirby.
Yeah, basically Kirby. This could be fun. I know, Catchy's just something that they could just go mental with it. Just as ridiculous as possible, because he is ridiculous by nature.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Vincent, I don't think there's anything else to be said. We talked about his limit breaks, how it could work, and that's basically it. No abilities for Vincent. Yeah, but for Sid, I think we covered him pretty much as well, because Dynamite could become an ability, as you said. And I also talked about the jumps. There was boost jump and hyper jump and dragon dive, which could become either abilities or triangle abilities, something like that, just spread out over all those possible battle, how do you say?
Mechanics.
Battle systems or mechanics, exactly. It's hard to say, but then we have limit breaks that would make sense, which is Dragon. So he, I think he also jumps into the enemy, but absorbs HP and MP. Something like that. Let me quickly check. Summons a dragon that attacks an enemy, doing normal damage, healing its HP and MP. So it's basically what Sonon does, but also absorbing HP and MP. So it could be kind of a Sonon dragon attack. So I could see that Sonon's limit break was inspired by Sid's dragon attack.
Yeah.
So I can see this return, but with absorption. Big brawl as well, because that's just also pummeling enemies, 8 random attacks, or attacks 8 random enemies. It's also like Red 13 and Yuffie have similar limit breaks. And High Wind, as we said, just bombarding the enemies with rockets. And with Shera, I'm pretty sure you made a good point that Shera could be the one that's answering Sid's call and flies into High Wind and.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's at the command center or something, and he makes a call, and he like lights a cigarette. He's like, "It's time to rain down on these mofo's." And she's like, "All right, sending now." Boom, and then just like
exactly. Although in the original game, it's probably implied that the other pilots do that, but it would make sense for Sid to after he redeems himself and he and Shera reconcile and. All is good again, and he has apologized and stuff, that she actually comes onto the High Wind. Or maybe she comes onto the High Wind when you get his last limit break for some certain quests where they get even closer, and then she gets onto the High Wind, and then you unlock the High Wind limit break. I would love that. I
love it. Yeah.
Because that's not just another limit break you get, it's coupled with lore. Same with Final Heaven. with
Mhm.
Tifa and hopefully Sangam.
Yeah.
Omni Slash with Cloud and something related to Sephiroth.
Mhm.
I don't know, or even Zack. Who knows? No, probably Sephiroth.
It could be a redeeming story arc with Shara because he's kind of abusive to her. So
yes.
maybe it's just like the way that they kind of reconcile that whole situation.
Yeah, there needs to be a better arc. We also talked about this about that yesterday in our Discord server because it came up with Sid that many of our community members are of one mind that yes, he needs a better. This whole arc needs to be better depicted. That
Oh yeah,
he
it'll be
really,
modernized too. I mean,
yeah,
look what they
for
did with the
sure.
cross-dressing scene and like
Yeah,
Wall
yeah,
Market and everything. I
certainly.
think they know.
Yeah, it's not. It probably won't be as in your face. Maybe a little bit not quite moderate or moderated, but or not necessarily toned down, but presented differently. That it doesn't come across like he's just this pure evil butthole who just
Yeah,
abuses her
exactly.
verbally and stuff, but that you notice that he's mad to her, mad at her about something, and he's just pissed because his dream is gone, and Rufus is coming, and he wants something, and just this whole situation. But that
Oh
that
yeah.
he's not that this complete asshole, but he still needs to come across as somebody who needs to redeem himself because
Exactly.
he is not a good person to Shara.
Mhm.
But we realize and learn why. But then we have later in space this his redemption arc where he notices and learns that she had to do this, otherwise the whole thing would have blown up and they all would be dead.
Exactly.
But this should be expanded upon, not just a sorry and then it's good, but more
Yeah,
afterwards.
he should appreciate that.
Yes, that's why I want a character quest for all their final limit breaks in the last part, and Sid should heavily involve Shara,
Yeah.
and she should be on the high wind later. Then I'd love that.
Yeah, the Tifa Scarlet like bitch slap session. I don't need an explanation. I just
Oh,
want
no,
Tifa to slap the shit out of her.
That doesn't need
She's
anything.
evil.
Yes.
So just keep that. Just
yes.
Mini game, slap mini game.
Yes, because then it's even more how do you say mentally damaging to Scarlet, because Tifa would probably be able to just pummel her to death with her kicks and fists and what have you. But she just uses a normal slap to subdue her, and this is even more of a shameful situation for Scarlet, I believe.
She's like, I beat that pull-up minigame.
Yeah, exactly.
I can slap you as hard as I want, you bitch.
Something and then like she falls almost down at the cannon.
Do you know who you're dealing with? Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. You had to get it out. It's fine. Because, yeah, Scarlet's basically leaving Tifa to die in that gas chamber.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Slapping her is not enough to any stretch of imagination. Nothing. It's just, I don't know. She should just fall off the cannon and drown, but then we wouldn't have Proud Claw later on. So
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think I have anything else to say about this topic, and I hoped today would be like our 2-hour mark, fine. But now 3 hours and 20 minutes again.
Yeah, it's all good.
We just cannot stay short.
It's all good.
But our viewers seem to, or viewers, silly me, our listeners seem to appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
they do.
Yeah. The longer the better, because then their long commutes or other travels are.
I think people liked our most recent episode about part 2 progression.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Not a lot of people have been talking about it, I don't think.
So maybe that's it filled a niche basically.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking about that. Well, I think I'm just so excited to play this game, honestly, just talking with you about all of these elements and these
same.
Party members that we have yet to see and control in battle. It just makes me so so much more excited just to kind of get like sink my teeth into part 2. And I think that we're just going to be so blown away with what they're able to come up with.
Yes.
And I can't wait. But I'm happy to know that 16 is almost here, so I can, dive into that game and be pleasantly distracted while I wait for part 2.
Yeah, to bridge us over to a certain extent before Ever Crisis comes out, and I hope it will be before part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least
that's
a few
true.
chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much, Vyzz, for taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with me about this incredible topic. It's been awesome.
You're welcome, and I love to talk about all this. And we had so many great ideas. It was really invigorating and almost mind-blowing with all the possibilities that are there and that Square Enix could embrace and bring to us. But half of what we talked about today probably won't come to fruition, but we can only hope. But it was a blast.
If they do, then we can take credit for it because we said it here first. So
maybe somebody at Square Enix listens to our podcast and
maybe
relays good ideas to the others. Who knows?
We can only hope.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so if you have any questions for us or if you have any ideas for our next episodes, you can write us. Our email address is thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Discord server, so the link for our Discord server is listed in the description of each episode. So all you have to do is click on that and you'll be automatically added to our Discord server. And it's a great community. We have some great conversations there about Remake and the subsequent parts. So why wouldn't you want to join? We do have Twitter. It's @reunion_podcast. Our Facebook is Reunion Podcast. And our YouTube channel is The Reunion Podcast. And like I said earlier, we do post all of our episodes there. So why don't you go ahead, like, sub, and share the podcast with your friends. If you have the time, you can write us a review on Spotify because they have reviews now. So you can rate us on Spotify and write a review, as well as Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to your podcasts. It is the best way to support us here. So thank you so much to all of you for continuing to support us and listen. And also thanks to Tom for reaching out for your incredible topic that we had the pleasure to talk about today. And also 1-year subscriber. So thank you so much. He's been listening to us ramble for the past year. So, I mean, if anybody's going to take the time out of their day to do that, then wow. I mean, I applaud you.
Yes. 3+ hours. Well, not every week, but still, it's a lot. Yeah.
All right, Vyzz, did you want to go ahead and drop your socials for CCO?
Oh, certainly. So it's Cosmo Canyon Observatory on YouTube, and on Twitter it's @cc_observatory. And we also have a Discord, and the link to our Discord is on in the Twitter bio and also on our YouTube page. And in every YouTube video there's a description with links to both Twitter and Discord. So go check us out.
All right, Vyzz, thank you so much for joining me today. All the best to you, and to everybody out there, take care and stay safe.
Thank you to all as well. Thank you, Kai, for having me today. It was a blast, and until next time.
Bye.